Chapter 2774, Confronted calmly. Sun Ran hesitated for a while outside the Two World Mountains. He was rather uncertain about entering the Two World Mountains. But in the end, he still bit the bullet and rushed in boldly. Afterwards, he used his secret technique to sense the direction that Jian Chen had traveled off in. He tailed behind him carefully. Sun Ran was clearly extremely fearful of the Two World Mountains. Even a Hall Master, a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime like him, had to be extremely cautious and careful in the outskirts of the Two World Mountains. And, he even used a secret technique to erase all of his presence. He would tread lightly as he moved through the forest and mountains, afraid of creating any disturbance that would alarm the nearby life-devouring beasts. He had to do everything that he could to avoid any battles within the Two World Mountains. If he fought, it was possible for his presence to leak out. Even if only a tiny sliver leaked out, it would be infinitely magnified by the special environment of the Two World Mountains. In the end, all the regional king life-devouring beasts in the Two World Mountains would discover him and eventually surround him from all directions. By then, even if he was in the outskirts, the regional king life-devouring beasts would still pursue him relentlessly. This damned Two World Mountains and the damned ancestor of the wood spirits. As Sun Ran advanced carefully, he cursed inside. To think that a mighty Hall Master like him, who possessed such an honorable status within the Dark Star race, would have to resort to something like sneaking around. Clearly, this was extremely insulting to someone like him who dwelled at the top most of the time. Kun Tian, I've had to make a compromise and enter the Two World Mountains because of you. You have to give me a good surprise. Sun Ran was still a primordial realm expert after all. Even though he concealed his presence and treaded lightly, he still moved extremely quickly. Before long, he had passed through the outskirts and entered the depths of the Two World Mountains. Immediately, a powerful, restrictive force exerted itself on Sun Ran, passing through his body and ignoring all protective items, marking him deeply like a brand. He was unable to escape from it no matter what. Sun Ran immediately felt that circulating the energy in his body became even more tedious. The attacks he could usually launch without much effort now took several times the energy, and his energy depleted much faster now. It was not just his cultivation. Even his soul suffered from the same restriction. He felt like his soul was now covered in shackles. Not only would it be much more arduous whenever he used his soul, but the power of his soul would also be depleted several times or even dozens of times faster than usual. The suppression from the depths were several dozen times more severe than the outskirts. If God Kings of the Dark Star race entered the depths, the suppression they suffered would also be extremely severe, but it would not be as terrifying as what Sun Ran experienced right now. Once primordial realm experts set foot in here, the suppression would be startlingly powerful. Sun Ran was originally a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime, but now, he had been forcefully suppressed to the strength of the second heavenly layer. Kun Tian is actually venturing even further still. Just where is he going? Behind, Sun Ran used some unknown, special secret technique to track Jian Chen's location as he felt excited inside. The Two World Mountains were a forbidden zone to cultivators of the Dark Star race. In particular, the depths were a forbidden zone that even primordial realm experts of the Dark Star race were reluctant to set foot in. Yet, not only had Kun Tian entered the depths, but he was even rapidly approaching the central region, which immediately made Sun Ran feel surprised and delighted, feeling like he had discovered some great secret. However, Sun Ran failed to sense the changes that occurred when he entered the depths. When the various aspects of his abilities became severely restricted, the indiscernible senses of a soul extended over carefully from the depths, catching all of his actions. The senses of the soul were extremely powerful, and it was slightly different from regular senses too. At the same time, it was of higher quality compared to the senses of souls of most infinite primes, and it was purposefully hidden. Under these various factors, Sun Ran failed to sense the existence of the senses of the soul. He continued with the actions that he believed were extremely well hidden and could not be sensed by any person or life-devouring beast as he passed through the thick mist silently. His body had become translucent as well. He basically seemed like a ghost. Several hundred kilometers ahead of Sun Ran, Jian Chen stood atop a large tree, also with his presence erased. He raised his head and glanced in the direction that he had come in. His eyes shone with a strange light as he murmured, "I never thought I'd be tailed just for visiting the two world mountains, and the person tailing me is the master of a hall. Has he already developed doubts towards my identity?" Jian Chen carefully recalled everything he had gone through recently within the Dark Star race before shaking his head in the end. He dismissed the possibility that he had given himself away. There hasn't been any issues in my actions within the Dark Star race. Even if there is, the 3 Vice Hall Masters of the 5th Divine Hall and Feng Shui of the 10th Divine Hall should sense it first, as they've always been the people closest to Kun Tian. If even they have not sensed anything, then it's impossible for Hall Master Sun Ran, who barely interacts with Kun Tian at all, to notice anything odd. Since there's nothing wrong with my identity, then Sun Ran must be tailing me for some other reason. At this moment, Jian Chen suddenly recalled how Sun Ran had tried to test him using an extremely discreet method when he first met Sun Ran in Kun Tian's disguise. He immediately came to an understanding. It looks like Kun Tian, or perhaps I, possesses something that interests Sun Ran. Reaching there, Jian Chen suddenly sneered. At that moment, a sharp light flashed through his eyes swiftly. He has come at the perfect time. I just happened to be worrying over the lack of opportunities to weaken the Dark Star race, yet Sun Ran has presented me with an opportunity himself. I've already killed one of the Hall Masters, so let's kill another one today. With a flash, Jian Chen left the treetop and continued to fly deeper into the two world mountains. Along the way, he did not alarm any life-devouring beasts at all. He flew extremely quickly. Behind, Sun Ran followed Jian Chen carefully. He used a special secret technique of the Dark Star race to cover his tracks, which was why he had not alarmed any life-devouring beasts either. He moved quite quickly too. Before long, the two of them had already ventured 10 million kilometers into the two world mountains. They were extremely close to the central region now. That's strange. Why have his tracks vanished here? At this moment, Sun Ran stopped. He scanned around in doubt. Soon afterwards, he closed his eyes and began to use the secret technique as hard as he could to sense for Jian Chen. A while later, he seemed to find something. His expression changed drastically as he immediately raised his head to look at the sky. A blurry figure vaguely hovered in the sky, shrouded by thick, gray mist. He faded in and out, as if he had already become part of the surrounding environment. It was impossible to discover his existence without actively looking for him. Kun Tian, Sun Ran uttered Kun Tian's name in a rather tongue-tied manner. He knew he had been discovered. Right now, hidden in the mist, Kun Tian was staring right at him calmly. The only thing that surprised him was that not only did Kun Tian give off no presence at all right now, but the space there was empty too when he scanned it with the senses of his soul. He could only see him with his eyes. If it were not for the fact that his secret technique could sense Kun Tian's location, he probably would have missed Kun Tian altogether with how he seemed to be fused with the mist right now. Exposed, Sun Ran did not feel awkward at all. He composed himself very quickly and smiled. Kun Tian, since when did you grasp such a powerful concealing technique? You've even managed to elude me. Jian Chen drifted down slowly from the air. He hovered before Sun Ran as he looked at him in a rather strange manner. When I've grasped the concealing technique is not important. What is important is another question instead. Why are you here? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2775, Jian Chen strikes. Under Jian Chen's gaze, Sun Ran immediately felt uneasy, as the gaze made him seem like he was looking at a dead person. This made Sun Ran extremely uncomfortable. Of course, He definitely did not believe he was no different from a dead man in Jian Chen's eyes right now. He still believed that the one standing before him was the fifth hall master. It was just that Kun Tian had lost his memories, which was why he seemed a little strange from time to time. Killing one another was forbidden in their Dark Star race, let alone figures as lofty as the 10 hall masters. Kun Tian, you must know that the city lord of the Dark Night City, Bai Jin, has already died in the Two World Mountains, so the droplet of essence blood allocated to him has ended up here too. I've obviously come here to retrieve the droplet of essence blood. After all, it ties into the fate of our entire race, Sun Ran said with composure. He really was unable to stand Jian Chen's gaze, so he turned his head and purposefully avoided it, acting like he was observing the surroundings. Oh, so you've actually come for the droplet of essence blood. Jian Chen smiled in a pondering manner. He said, but the essence blood hasn't fallen here. You're traveling in the opposite direction of the essence blood right now. Sun Ran was unflustered. Clearly, he was rather unfazed. He explained, I originally entered the Two World Mountains for the essence blood, but I discovered your traces soon after I entered here. Out of curiosity, I followed you here. Hall Master Sun, do you really think I'm as easy to fool as a kid? I don't have time to listen to your excuses. Tell me, why have you been tailing me? And how did you find my tracks? Sun Ran was helpless. He wanted to continue quibbling, Kun Tian, I don't care whether you believe me or not. I really, Jian Chen ran out of patience. He interrupted Sun Ran violently and growled. Cut the bullsh *t. Ever since I lost my memory, I've become quite short-tempered. It's very easy for me to act rashly. This is the Two World Mountains. Sun Ran, I hope you don't end up forcing me to attack you, or once I alarm those regional king life-devouring beasts, I might be fine, but it'll be difficult to say for you. With that, Sun Ran's expression immediately changed. He did not doubt Kun Tian at all. Recently, Kun Tian had embroiled in a great battle with the 7th Hall Master, Getty, over some petty matters. He had even received reliable news that Kun Tian had actually declared madly that he would never spare Getty if he touched the unimportant outsiders in the 100 Saint City. This matter was no secret among the 10 divine halls. At the same time, it allowed the upper echelon of the Dark Star race to understand something, which was Kun Tian really was capable of doing anything once he lost his temper in his current state of memory loss. This might have been the Two World Mountains, where Kun Tian could alarm all the regional king life-devouring beasts as long as he leaked even a sliver of his presence, but Sun Ran understood that Kun Tian was actually bold enough to do that. Kun Tian has already reached the 6th heavenly layer. Even under the suppression of the Two World Mountains, he's still stronger than me. If he actually lures over the regional king life-devouring beasts, I'll be the one to suffer. I might not even be able to escape from the Two World Mountains. Sun Ran was troubled inside. Before him, Jian Chen saw how Sun Ran remained silent. He had already begun to lose his patience, and his presence had already begun to radiate from his body slightly. His gaze turned into a glare too. Sun Ran was alarmed. He immediately cried out, Stop, Kun Tian. Stop this foolish act. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Jian Chen immediately withdrew his presence. He said nothing more, just staring at Sun Ran coldly. Sun Ran came clean and told him the truth. Kun Tian, your strength increased so much after you broke through in the land of soul destruction, so I suspected you must have obtained some kind of fortuitous encounter there. You entered the Two World Mountains for no good reason this time, so I thought it was extremely likely that it had something to do with your fortuitous encounter from the land of soul destruction. Perhaps you had obtained some memories of the planetary beast, and you had only come here despite the dangers under the guidance of the memories. I was curious, which was why I risked my life to see what was going on with you. I hid so well along the way, so just how did you find my traces? Jian Chen asked again. He had to get to the bottom of this. After all, he had been to the capital city before and had come in contact with many hall masters. If the Dark Star race possessed some mysterious method to plant some kind of imprint on a person without them knowing, then the Dark Star race would be able to discover his true identity once he resumed his identity as Jian Chen. If that really did happen, then all of his hard work and the disguises he had undertaken recently would go to waste. This is because I've also entered the land of soul destruction, and I also had a bit of a fortuitous encounter there. I learnt a secret technique from a small fragment of the planetary beast's memories. I can track anyone who has entered the land of soul destruction with this secret technique. Of course, this doesn't last for too long either. Once it exceeds 10 millennia, the presence that the person has become contaminated with when they entered the land of soul destruction will vanish. Once this presence is gone, I can't use my secret technique on the person anymore, Sen Ran answered. Is there anyone else who has grasped this secret technique apart from you? There isn't. Actually, only a handful of people have managed to obtain a fortuitous encounter in the land of soul destruction. Among our race right now, probably only the Emperor and us have benefited from there. It's just a pity that what I've gained is basically useless. Sen Ran said in pity, I've already shared my secret with you. Kuan Tian, it's time for you to share your secret. Just what did you obtain from the land of soul destruction? And why have you come to the Two World Mountains? Jian Chen sneered. Since you want to know so much, I'll let you know. With that, Jian Chen directly launched a palm strike. Energy surged out of his hand as violently as a tidal wave. It hurtled towards Sen Ran with terrifying power at the sixth heavenly layer. At the same time, his presence erupted in an earth-shaking manner, causing the thick mist in the depths of the Two World Mountains to churn violently, like a dragon making the seas churn. Under the effects of the mask, his presence had been disguised as the presence of the Dark Star race. The presence of the Dark Star race clearly received special treatment in the Two World Mountains. As soon as Jian Chen's presence appeared, it was propelled by a mysterious power in the mountains, spreading in all directions at an unbelievable speed. It reached every corner of the mountains in a single instant. Roar! Growl! Immediately, tremendous roars of beasts rang out from all directions in the depths of the Two World Mountains. They were thunderous, and the voices possessed a pressure special to primordial realm experts. There were several dozen of them. With the leaking of a Dark Star race primordial realm expert's presence, all the primordial realm life-devouring beasts lurking in the various regions of the Two World Mountains had been directly alarmed. They behaved like they had found their public enemy, like the moment for them to carry out their orders had arrived. At that moment, all the primordial realm experts set off, casting their territorial behavior aside and rushing in from all directions hungrily. At the same time, Jian Chen's palm strike landed on Sen Ran's chest. With Sen Ran's cultivation at the fifth heavenly layer, he was not Jian Chen's opponent even at his peak condition, let alone now, when his strength had been firmly suppressed by the Two World Mountains. He was even less of an opponent. With a grunt, Sen Ran was knocked away as he spurted blood. His face paled as half of his chest had been reduced to a bloody mess. He laid on the ground powerlessly for quite a while, unable to get up. Coughing with blood, Sen Ran stared straight at Jian Chen. His face was filled with disbelief and confusion as he stuttered, Kuan Tian, why are you doing this? And your strength actually isn't, affected by the Two World Mountains. This is impossible, if you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2776, Sen Ran's Death, 1. Suddenly, Sen Ran seemed to understand something. His eyes immediately widened as he stared at Kuan Tian before him in disbelief. His heart churned. I understand now. Why, you're not Kuan Tian at all. Who are you exactly? Who? As he said that, Senran's shock and disbelief reached a startling level. At the same time, he experienced deep fear. The fear was so heavy that it made his soul shudder. It made his entire body tremble uncontrollably. He had already realized that if the Kun Tian before him was an impostor, the impostor would definitely be an outsider. And any outsider older than 1,000 years could not pass through the passageway between the two worlds and step foot into the Dark Star world. However, the outsider who was pretending to be Kun Tian was a sixth heavenly layer infinite prime through and through. As a matter of fact, his battle prowess was even much greater than those who had just broken through to the sixth heavenly layer. What did this mean? It meant that the outside world had produced a sixth heavenly layer infinite prime less than 1,000 years old. And, this expert managed to slip into their Dark Star world silently and infiltrate their upper echelon, becoming the mighty master of a hall in possession of great authority. This was simply too terrifying, so terrifying that Senran's fear reached an unprecedented level. You're pretty clever, aren't you? You've seen through my disguise so quickly. Jian Chen's lips curled into a mysterious smile as he said, Senran, do you remember that outsider who made a mess out of Dark Knight City recently? Senran's eyes widened completely. He said in utter shock, yes, so you're that outsider called Gu Qi. Why, you, Senran had become so shocked that he was speechless. However, he did understand that such a powerful outsider scheming and infiltrating the upper echelon of the Dark Star race was definitely hiding a startling, unspeakable secret. Suddenly, the great ceremony that the Dark Star race was about to hold that could determine the fate of the entire race flashed through his mind. He immediately became extremely nervous. I can't die here. I cannot die here. I have to return. I have to escape from here with everything I have and report this startling piece of news to the Emperor. Senran's eyes immediately became crazed. His life force depleted at an extremely terrifying rate. Not only was his life force being burned away, but even his vital energies had been ignited. He was using a secret technique at the cost of his life. You want to run? Senran, do you still think I'll let you leave here alive now that you know my greatest secret? Jian Chen sneered. He kicked Senran's head, sending him flying from the tremendous force. Senran's soul was heavily shaken up. He felt his head spin as his soul shuddered uncontrollably, as if it was about to crack into pieces. The fleeing secret technique he was preparing to use had been forcefully interrupted. Around him, the thunderous roars of beasts sounded out constantly as the presence of the primordial realm flooded the entire place. Over 40 life-devouring beasts were converging from all directions. They moved extremely quickly. Among them, the fastest one was only a few hundred kilometers away from them. This distance seemed to be quite large, but to a primordial realm life-devouring beast, it would take less than a minute to cover. This was an avian that flew rapidly through the air. It was impossible to describe just what kind of creature it was. It had the head of a huge hawk and the body of a leopard, with 2 pairs of wings on its back, one large and one small. Its wings were riddled with beautiful and fascinating patterns, like the wings of a butterfly. As the 2 pairs of wings fluttered, it kicked up a great gale in the air, causing the mist to surge. It even formed blades of wind that shot off in all directions with incredible sharpness. Many towering trees below had been cut to pieces. The many life-devouring beasts thriving in the mountains and forests all collapsed on the ground, trembling. Behind this strange avian, the ground shook violently and rhythmically. In the mist behind, a colossal figure, standing over 300 meters tall, could be vaguely made out, running along the ground. It was impossible to imagine just how heavy it was. With each step, the ground would shake, and the mountains would totter. As it ran along, it collided against everything that blocked its way. Countless trees and boulders were reduced to fragments, as if even the endless mist there would be dispersed by its terrifying power when it made contact against its colossal body. This was a huge primordial realm life-devouring beast. It was truly unstoppable. Wherever it passed by, it would leave behind an empty hole in the mist and environment. It rushed off in Jian Chen's direction, tearing through everything. These two primordial realm life-devouring beasts were the ones closest to Jian Chen. In the surroundings, many more life-devouring beasts gathered over, except due to their varying distances and speeds, they would make contact with Jian Chen and Sen Ran at different times. Sen Ran sensed the rapidly approaching life-devouring beasts in the surroundings too. He was ashen, and despair filled his eyes. He said viciously, "Even if you kill me, you won't be able to live either. You've already become surrounded by many regional king life-devouring beasts. Under their attacks, you won't be able to escape even if your strength hasn't been suppressed by the two world mountains. If I were you, I'd choose to leave this place in a hurry, just in case I become surrounded and die here. After all, this is the two world mountains, not outside." As he listened to that, Jian Chen could not help but scan around. His expression immediately became serious. The strength of the two world mountains could not be underestimated. It was no weaker than the Dark Star race. This time, there were a total of 12 life-devouring beasts above the fifth heavenly layer. This number had already surpassed what the Dark Star race possessed. This was because the Dark Star race only had the 10 Hall Masters and the Dark Star Emperor as people who had exceeded the fifth heavenly layer. And, the Emperor rarely showed himself. However, just as Jian Chen's attention was directed to the surroundings, determination immediately flashed through Sen Ran's eyes. In the next moment, there was a thunderous boom, and Sen Ran's body exploded loudly. His tremendous cultivation at the fifth heavenly layer of infinite prime had actually turned into a finger 1 meter in length instantly, radiating with startling might. This finger had condensed all of Sen Ran's power. It was the entire cultivation that a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime had developed across countless years, all condensed into the finger. As a result, the strength of the finger had completely surpassed the limits of the fifth heavenly layer. It had already reached the peak of the sixth heavenly layer, or even touching the boundary to the seventh heavenly layer. However, Sen Ran was not dead. His body had been destroyed, but his soul remained. His dim soul had been wrapped up in energy, turning into a streak of light and fleeing from the two world mountains as his body exploded. As for the finger that condensed all of his power, it shot towards Jian Chen with terrifying force enough to rip through space. Jian Chen's eyes shone. He could clearly sense an ancient and powerful will within the finger. It was also the existence of this will that prevented the restrictive powers of the two world mountains from touching the finger, allowing the finger to completely unleash its power within the special environment of the two world mountains without weakening at all. A sliver of the Dark Star race Grand Exalt's will. Jian Chen murmured. With a flash, he vanished instantly, and when he reappeared, he was already 100 kilometers away. However, his presence had been locked onto, so the startlingly powerful finger of energy turned into a black streak of light in pursuit of Jian Chen. It pierced through space along the way, completely neglecting the distance that existed. It traveled across 100 kilometers in an instant, appearing before Jian Chen. Afterwards, it passed through Jian Chen's body without the slightest obstruction. However, that was just a blur Jian Chen had left behind. His actual body had already appeared another 100 kilometers away through the use of the laws of space. He stood on the back of the primordial realm life-devouring beast that had arrived first, the one with a leopard's body and a butterfly's wings. In the instant that Jian Chen appeared, the life-devouring beast had sensed him, but it was in no shape to pay attention to the figure that had appeared on its back. Its eyes narrowed as it stared straight at the finger of energy that shot towards it with lightning speed as a streak of black light. This life-devouring beast's strength was around the fifth heavenly layer. Faced with a finger that bore a sliver of the Dark Star race Grand Exalt's will that had already reached the peak of the sixth heavenly layer, it experienced a sense of unprecedented danger. Its intelligence was insufficient for it to realize that the finger was not targeting it, but the figure on its back. Its instincts told it that since the finger was rushing towards it, it was its enemy. Its two pairs of wings immediately emitted a dazzling glow. They furled up, forming a huge blade of light that directly cut into the incoming finger of energy. Boom! Within the thunderous sounds, the attack from the life-devouring beast was utterly useless before the finger of energy. It was pulverized instantly, and the finger of energy continued onwards, landing on the life-devouring beast mercilessly with the power of the sixth heavenly layer. The life-devouring beast let out a painful wail. Its colossal body fell out of the air as dark green liquid flowed out of its hawk head. Its entire head had cracked, and the butterfly wings on its back had become extremely tattered. As a matter of fact, a small part of it had become missing, such that the wings were no longer complete. As for Jian Chen, who had been standing on its back, he had already vanished at a certain time. To the other side, Sun Ran's soul rapidly fled outside under the protection of a ball of energy. Even though he had already been reduced to a soul, his presence still leaked out in all directions, allowing all the primordial realm experts to sense him. When he was in possession of his body, Sun Ran could use secret techniques to mask his presence, but now that he was just a soul, he could not disguise his presence even if he wanted to. As such, he became a glowing light bulb in the eyes of all the primordial realm life-devouring beasts within the two-world mountains. As for Jian Chen, his presence had already vanished completely when Sun Ran's finger of energy struck the butterfly-winged life-devouring beast. I may have lost my body, but that's an attack condensed from my entire life's worth of cultivation. Even if your strength has completely reached the sixth heavenly layer, it still won't be easy for you to block it. By the time you've caught your breath, the regional king life-devouring beasts would have gotten to you already. All that awaits you is death. I might not be able to hide my presence when I'm just a soul, but I've sped up instead. There's no chance for these life-devouring beasts to catch up to me. Kun Tian, no, I should say Gu Qi, you're still lacking a little if you want to kill this Hall Master, Sun Ran sneered as he fled. He was not pained by the loss of his body at all. The greatest advantage of the Dark Star race was their lack of internal strife, allowing them all to live extremely lengthy lives. As long as their souls remained, they would all have ample time to recover their lost cultivation. I'm lacking a little if I want to kill you. Hall Master Sun Ran, aren't you overestimating yourself a little too much? But at this moment, a nonchalant and slightly sarcastic voice rang out from ahead. The voice was like the god of death's declaration. It immediately made Sun Ran's soul tremble, as shock, despair, and disbelief flooded his eyes. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2777, Sun Ran's death. Jian Chen silently appeared in front of Sun Ran with his arms crossed, as if he had been waiting there for quite some time already. Immediately, Sun Ran's soul that flew as fast as possible came to a halt. He fearfully looked at Jian Chen, who blocked his path, before fleeing in another direction without the slightest hesitation. He was utterly terrified. He moved even faster this time. His soul seemed to be covered in a ball of fire. As his speed increased, Sun Ran's soul visibly weakened. Now, he was truly fleeing in desperation, regardless of the cost. He had already unleashed a secret technique to ignite his soul, just so that he could move even faster. In a split second, Sun Ran's soul had flown several hundred meters away. He was truly fast, immediately pulling away from the several dozen primordial realm life-devouring beasts behind him. Jian Chen could not help but sneer. He did not take off in Sun Ran's direction in pursuit. Instead, the space around him rippled, and under the powers of space, he had already vanished. Ah! Impossible, that's impossible. How can you be faster than me? In the next moment, Sun Ran shrieked out several hundred kilometers in the forest, filled with disbelief and despair. Just like before, Jian Chen hovered in the air with his arms crossed right before him, completely calm and composed. He seemed like he was playing a game of cat and mouse. Sen Ran, don't even think about running away in front of me. Let alone the two world mountains, you don't have the slightest chance of escaping if I want to kill you even if we're in the territory of the Dark Star race, Jian Chen said nonchalantly. With that, he suddenly extended his hand and reached toward Sen Ran's soul. With that, the space around Sen Ran immediately solidified. His soul also became restrained by the space, utterly immobilized there. If he were still whole, he could easily break out of the frozen space with the great power in his body, but now that he was just a soul, he had lost his greatest reserve of power. As a result, he was like a lamb to the slaughter under Jian Chen's restraint. His head was on the chopping block. The laws of space. You've actually grasped the laws of space. Only now did Sen Ran realize why Jian Chen had managed to appear in front of him so many times, even moving faster than when he burnt his soul. He was actually thinking he could escape from a primordial realm expert who had grasped the laws of space. All of it had truly been a waste of effort. At this moment, Sen Ran truly lost all hope. He understood that even if he could move several times faster, there was no chance for him to escape from a primordial realm expert who had grasped the laws of space. Gu Qi, with your strength and talent, you're probably a one-of-a-kind supreme prodigy even within the saints' world that's filled with experts. I don't understand why you would spend so much effort and take on so much risk to infiltrate our Dark Star race with your status. Is it for the various resources your outside world requires? Sen Ran asked in doubt. He knew it was impossible for him to escape. All he could hope for was to die knowing a little more. In the surroundings, the presence given off by the primordial realm life-devouring beasts drew closer and closer. Sen Ran's presence was like a lantern in the dark, indicating a clear direction for these life-devouring beasts, making them rush towards him swiftly. In just a few seconds, Sen Ran would be encircled by the life-devouring beasts. Since you want to know so much, I'll let you die knowing. Do you still remember the divine beast your Dark Star race captured? That divine beast is like family to me, yet your Dark Star race actually wants to sacrifice my family for the success of your great ceremony. I've come to the Dark Star world this time to interfere with your great ceremony and save the divine beast, Jian Chen said emotionlessly. Whenever someone mentioned Sacred Feather, who had gone through torture he still had no idea about, he would be filled with killing intent. Hearing that, Sen Ran fell silent. Only sorrow filled his eyes. A while later, he smiled. He smiled rather madly, rather crazily. He muttered to himself, never did I ever think that our great ceremony would fail over a single divine beast after all these years of preparation. These were Sen Ran's last words. After he said that, the frozen space around him turned back to normal. Jian Chen, who hovered before him with his presence concealed the entire time, silently vanished once more. As soon as Jian Chen had vanished, a colossal ape, several hundred meters tall and standing like a mountain, appeared in front of Sen Ran. It let out a deafening roar, directly swinging its hand toward Sen Ran's soul. As the ape swung out, 3 other colossal figures appeared in 3 other directions. They directly locked onto Sen Ran's soul that gave off the presence of the Dark Star race and launched attacks together. The outcome was as clear as day. Sen Ran's frail soul could not even put up a fight before the primordial realm life-devouring beasts. He was crushed to death as easily as crushing an ant to death. Sen Ran died. An esteemed high-level primordial realm expert of the Dark Star race had died in the 2 world mountains so easily. No one even knew about his death. As for the several dozen primordial realm life-devouring beasts that had yet to arrive, they all came to a halt, perhaps because they sensed the expert of the Dark Star race had already died. They subsequently let out roars at the sky. It was as if they were telling one another, but it was also as if they were celebrating over this. For a moment, terrifying roars filled the depths of the 2 world mountains. It even reached the outskirts, which made the many cultivators of the saints' world who had entered the outskirts to hunt life-devouring beasts uneasy. They had no idea what had happened. However, unbeknownst to Jian Chen, an illusionary figure appeared 10,000 meters above where Sun Ran died. He seemed to have merged with the world, where every single movement of his possessed the charm of the ways, yet also resonated with the ways. Even the special environment of the two world mountains could not obstruct him at all. No one knew when he had appeared, much less how long he had existed for. However, he had seen the entire battle between Jian Chen and Sun Ran and the process of Sun Ran's death. No one could discover his existence. All of the primordial realm life-devouring beasts and even Jian Chen failed to sense him at all. Even Jian Chen's sharp senses were unable to find anything amiss here. Two of the masters of the 10 divine halls of the Dark Star race are already gone. Having lost 2 hall masters, the great ceremony will definitely be affected. Combined with Jian Chen, the chess piece hidden within the Dark Star race, who can make trouble at a critical moment, ha 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 ha, the great ceremony of the Dark Star race is destined for failure this time. The figure let out a great laugh in the surging mist. His laughter was filled with joy, as if the failure of the Dark Star race's great ceremony was extremely important to him. Afterwards, the figure strode away through the air and left this place. Whenever he took a step, the surroundings would change, the world would spin, and even the sun and moon seemed to invert. In the moment before, he was still in the depths of the two world mountains, but by the time he had taken a step, he had already across an unimaginable distance. He directly left the two world mountains and even crossed most of the Dark Star race's territory, appearing before the capital city of the Dark Star race. In the end, he vanished in there. Among the 36 major cities of the Dark Star race, Dark Knight City was the closest to the two world mountains. However, even someone who had grasped the laws of space like Jian Chen would have to teleport to Dark Knight City and then fly at high speed for a while if he wanted to go from the capital city to the two world mountains. If he did not use a teleportation formation and directly flew over to the two world mountains, the distance he would have to cross would be several tens of million kilometers at the very least, or even reaching the hundreds of millions. Even with Jian Chen's speed, it would take quite a while. Yet right now, the illusionary figure had used only a single step to traverse this distance. His terrifying speed was utterly unheard of. And, from how relaxed and composed he seemed, like he was going on a stroll, crossing over 100 million kilometers in a single step probably was not even his limit. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2778, finally making a return in the depths of the two world mountains several hundred kilometers away from where Sun Ran had died, Jian Chen stood in front of a lake, having returned to his original appearance. His presence was completely withdrawn, such that the many life-devouring beasts hiding within the lake failed to sense his existence. The lake was part of a primordial realm life-devouring beast's territory. However, the primordial realm life-devouring beast had left to kill Sun Ran. It had traveled quite far away, so it had yet to return. And, the primordial realm life-devouring beast was not the only beast living in the lake. At the same time, there were many God King life-devouring beasts and ones below God Kings. They remained submerged at the bottom of the lake peacefully, as if they were using their own, special method to cultivate. The senses of Jian Chen's soul spread out. His powerful senses allowed him to see exactly what was going on within the lake. As a matter of fact, even the hole that served as the nest for the primordial realm life-devouring beast in the center of the lake failed to escape his senses. I'll leave Kun Tian's items here for now. Even if experts of the Dark Star race end up finding it here, I can say that I lost it by accident as I fought against life-devouring beasts, just in case these items give my identity away. Jian Chen muttered to himself quietly. Then, the two god artifacts that belonged to Kun Tian appeared in his hand. Through the powers of space, he deposited the two god artifacts into the center of the lake, within the nest that clearly belonged to the primordial realm life-devouring beast. They were buried within a large pile of rubbish. Jian Chen had already found out that the life-devouring beast that dwelled in the lake was at around the fourth heavenly layer of infinite prime. Under the circumstances of suppressed strength, a sixth heavenly layer infinite prime of the dark star race was indeed unable to deal with such a life-devouring beast. It would be reasonable for him to lose his god artifacts here. Afterwards, Jian Chen carefully checked through his space ring, focusing on the 30,000 or so stalks of high-grade God King grass. Only after double-checking that they were not imprinted with anything did he leave at ease. Soon after Jian Chen had left, the Lord of the Lake finally returned to its nest. It was a huge python over 1,000 meters in length. Its body was absolutely colossal. Its large eyes, the size of lanterns, flickered with rather bright light. Life-devouring beasts that had reached the primordial realm would possess some basic intelligence, but clearly, it was still nowhere close to a regular person's intelligence. As soon as it had returned to its nest, it sensed that something was amiss. Its huge eyes scanned the area and eventually landed on the pile of rubbish in a corner. Its gaze locked onto the armor and god artifact that had suddenly appeared under the rubbish and tilted its head in thought. Its memories seemed to tell it that these two items did not exist in the pile of rubbish. It was unable to think about anything even after quite a while, so it just stopped thinking about it. It stopped caring about these items that had appeared out of thin air, curling up on the ground and snoring away. On the outskirts of the two world mountains, many cultivators from the outside world gathered in small groups, scattered in various places within the outskirts. These people originally wanted to take advantage of the high prices the Dark Star race was offering to kill a few life-devouring beasts and make some money, but now, all of them had completely lost interest in trying to hunt. They all withdrew their presences and hid away carefully, gazing into the depths of the two world mountains uneasily. As a matter of fact, there were even a few timid people who had begun to tremble from fright. Their faces were pale as they tried their best to persuade their companions to retreat quickly together. All of this happened because of the shocking roars of beasts from the depths of the two world mountains. To these small hunting groups composed of god kings or even over-gods at most, primordial realm life-devouring beasts that lived in the depths of the two world mountains had always been a mere legend. But today, they had actually heard the roars of so many primordial realm life-devouring beasts at the same time, which immediately frightened the wits out of them. I ain't doing this anymore. If you want to stay, then you can stay. I'm not gonna be accompanying you anymore. Just in case those terrifying existences really do emerge from the depths, there aren't even enough of us to serve as a snack. I'm going back. The price offered by the Dark Star race is very tempting, but you gotta be alive first if you want to take advantage of it. If you lose your life, you won't be able to enjoy anything no matter what you possess. The two world mountains clearly aren't very peaceful right now, so let's retreat for now. Jian Chen flew in the direction of the 100 Saint City silently like a ghost. By now, he had already passed through the thick mist and arrived on the outskirts. He immediately discovered large groups of cultivators pulling out of the two world mountains. Jian Chen could not help but sigh at this sight. If it were not for his great strength, he probably would have become a member of this retreating group if faced with this predicament. I'm still not strong enough. Jian Chen clenched his fists. He knew he was strong enough to run around fearlessly among the Dark Star race, but in the Saints' world and Immortals' world, he was nothing. Unfortunately, he still had not broken through with the laws of the sword, and his chaotic body had been stuck at the 14th layer due to the limitations of laws. If he wanted to reach the 15th layer of the chaotic body, then he had to make a breakthrough with the laws of the sword and reach the partial achievement of Sword Immortal. The laws become more difficult to comprehend the further you go. Every increase will require accumulation over lengthy periods of time. Now that I can't rely on the Fortune Jade pedestal, comprehending the ways won't be as easy as before. I have no idea when I'll be able to reach the partial achievement of Sword Immortal, Jian Chen thought. He knew that as long as he reached the partial achievement of Sword Immortal, even the greatest expert of the Dark Star race, the Dark Star Emperor who could rival chaotic primes in battle prowess, would not be his opponent. By then, he would even be able to cut down real chaotic primes. The fruit of nurturing ways is my opportunity to break through to partial achievement, but I still can't touch it yet. Not to mention that it's still not completely ripe, such that its effects are nowhere near enough. I'll have to save Sacred Feather first even if I do want to go for it. Jian Chen calculated inside. Sacred Feather's life was still in the hands of the Dark Star Emperor. His life was at the Dark Star Emperor's whim, which made Jian Chen hesitant. Before long, Jian Chen had arrived outside the gate tower of the 100 Saint City. The 100 Saint City was still enveloped by the powerful defensive formation, only leaving the city gates open for entry and exit. Security was very tight at the entrance. The several dozen peak organizations stationed in the 100 Saint City had all sent a few sacrificial god kings to guard the place. They would make every cultivator entering the city undergo the strictest body search. Clearly, the entire city was in a state of high vigilance after going through the disaster caused by the 7th Divine Hall. Even with the 5th Divine Hall stepping forward and offering protection, none of the organizations dared to place all their hopes on the 5th Divine Hall. Jian Chen was in no hurry to enter the city. Instead, he stood outside the city gates and secretly established a connection with the sliver of the power of his soul he had left with He Qianqian. At the same time, He Qianqian was listening to the reports of the recent situation within the city from a person below. Currently, she was in the divine hall that belonged to the Heavenly Crane clan. Suddenly, He Qianqian's expression changed. With a flip of her hand, she took out the divine hall Jian Chen had given her. She immediately sent in the senses of her soul, observing it carefully. In the next moment, He Qianqian's face lit up and became overjoyed. She immediately rushed out of the divine hall despite the person reporting below. Then she contacted Jin Hong before flying towards the city gates. In another region of the 100 Saint City, in the divine hall that belonged to the Dire Wolf clan, Jin Hong currently focused on sculpting a piece of wood. Suddenly, he heard the message from He Qianqian, and Jin Hong's hand immediately paused. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he looked in the direction of the city gates. Gradually, his lips curled into a faint smile, as if he was filled with relief. Yang Yutian, you've finally come out. I knew you would be fine, and you would definitely return safely. Sure enough, you haven't disappointed me. The wooden sculpture and sculpting blade in Jin Hong's hand vanished. He tidied his clothes before striding out of the divine hall, making his way over to the city gates. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2779, Yang Yutian must die. Outside the city gates, Jian Chen stood on the side of the main path with his arms across, gazing at the outsiders that flowed in and out as he waited patiently. Almost a minute later, the white-clothed He Qianqian and Jin Hong, who was dressed in extremely simple clothes, appeared on the tall walls of the city simultaneously. Their eyes immediately locked onto Jian Chen, who stood below calmly. Right now, Jian Chen seemed travel-weary and slightly exhausted. His long hair was a bit messy, while his white robes were covered in green splatters and dust. Part of the robes was even slightly tattered. Jin Hong and He Qianqian could recognize with a single glance that the green splatters on Jian Chen came from plants within the Two World Mountains. Combined with his tattered robes and exhaustion, it clearly stated just how tough it had been for him within the Two World Mountains. He Qianqian was deeply touched when she saw Jian Chen in his current state. She knew it was Jian Chen who had stood forward without hesitation when they were being chased by a late God King life-devouring beast, leading it away despite the great danger, thus earning them the precious time to escape. And, because of this, Jian Chen had remained in the depths of the Two World Mountains for such a long time. She had no idea exactly what Jian Chen had gone through in the Two World Mountains, but she knew the heavy price the group had paid and the dangers they had faced when she moved through the two world mountains with them. She knew exactly how difficult it had been to emerge from the two world mountains in one piece. Even a huge group with such great strength had suffered so much, let alone Jian Chen who had traveled alone. Jin Hong leapt off the wall, ignoring the soldiers nearby who bowed towards him and arrived before Jian Chen instantly. He extended his hand and patted Jian Chen's shoulder firmly, laughing aloud. "Yang Yutian, you've finally bothered to come out. You even made me think you didn't want to come out of the two world mountains." As he said that, Jin Hong's eyes twinkled. Once again, he sensed the power of his bloodline surge and grow reckless from the close contact with Jian Chen, as if it had been set on fire, burning with deep desire. It was as if Jian Chen possessed something of extremely great importance to him, enough to make the power of his bloodline rouse. "Brother Jin Hong, you can't say that. I was constantly on edge in the two world mountains. I would have lost my life from the slightest carelessness. It's not that I didn't want to emerge sooner. Instead, I couldn't." Jian Chen smiled bitterly. He Qianqian and Jin Hong agreed with him. They could guess that Yang Yutian must have been chased down by many life-devouring beasts during the time he spent in the two world mountains, fleeing for his life constantly by using the laws of space. Under such circumstances, he would have no choice but to take many detours. He might have even been forced to loop around any powerful life-devouring beasts blocking his path. When they thought of this, Jin Hong and He Qianqian's shame intensified. "Yang Yutian, we've really made you suffer. But don't worry. He Qianqian, will make it up to you one way or another for what you've gone through in the two world mountains." He Qianqian arrived before Jian Chen too, standing beside Jin Hong and thanking him from the bottom of her heart. Yeah. You lead away that life-devouring beast king without any hesitation at all, saving us all. We all owe you a favor. Jin Hong, will help you redeem this favor from everyone," Jin Hong swore solemnly too. Subsequently, under Jin Hong and He Qianqian's personal invitation and accompaniment, Jian Chen entered the 100 Saints city smoothly. In the end, he was invited to the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall by He Qianqian. After all, Jian Chen was technically still a member of the Heavenly Crane clan. As long as he remained in the world of the fallen beast, his current identity would be tied to the Heavenly Crane clan. In the 100 Saints city, both He Qianqian and Jin Hong were figures who bore great influence, as both of them held the greatest status among their respective clans out of everyone who had been sent to the 100 Saints city. They each lead numerous sacrificial god kings, and when the need arose, they could both unleash power at the primordial realm. As a result, Jian Chen obviously received the attention of many organizations in the city when both of them personally invited him into the city, catching the interest of all these organizations. They immediately reported this piece of news to the person in charge of their organizations. Immediately, the leaders of the various organizations became stunned and taken aback when they received this news in the divine halls within their respective regions of the city. "What did you say?" He Qianqian and Jin Hong personally received a cultivator outside, inviting him into the city. With their status, just who possesses the right for them to personally receive him? You aren't mistaken, right? It was really He Qianqian and Jin Hong who personally received a person from the saints' world outside the city? That's impossible. Who do you think He Qianqian and Jin Hong are? One of them is a direct descendant of the Heavenly Crane clan, while the other one is the young master of the Dire Wolf clan. In terms of status, they're much more noble than me. Who's important enough for them to personally receive him? Hold on. Draw me a portrait of the person. Immediately, a guard began drawing in the air. He used his finger as a brush and energy as the ink, drawing a vivid portrait of Jian Chen. This was a piece of cake to any godhood cultivator. It's actually Yang Yutian. That's impossible. Yang Yutian actually hasn't died. He emerged from the two world mountains alive. At almost the same time, the representatives of the various organizations obtained an image of Jian Chen. However, following their shock after learning that Jian Chen had emerged safely from the Two World Mountains, they all reacted differently. Amongst the many organizations, the Empire Lotus Sword Sect, the 100 Battle Clan, the Scarlet Light Clan, the Greenfields Clan, the Man Family, the Sun Family, and so on rejoiced for Jian Chen's safe return. As a matter of fact, a handful of the leaders, such as Ping Yixing of the Empire Lotus Sect, immediately sent people to prepare a gift after learning about Jian Chen's return, personally bringing the gift to the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. Of course, there were many organizations who remained indifferent. Jian Chen's sacrifice in the Two World Mountains had not gained everyone's recognition. In the eyes of a few prodigies with great statuses who had already grown accustomed to being protected by others, they believed this was what Jian Chen should have done. It was as if they believed this was the purpose of independent cultivators. Bang! At the same time, the sound of smashed bottles and vases constantly rang out in the divine hall of the Chu family. Chu Jie was utterly furious. He had completely lost his temper. In the majestic hall, all the ornamental vases and bottles had been smashed by him, and all the furniture had been tipped over. The entire divine hall was a mess. Nearby, a few over-god old men stood in silent fear. They could only allow Chu Jie to throw his tantrum. A while later, when there was nothing else left in the divine hall that he could use to vent his anger, Chu Tian finally stopped. His eyes were slightly bloodshot, but his gaze was shocking. It radiated with killing intent as he gasped heavily. I thought Yang Yutian already died in the Two World Mountains, but not only is he still alive, but he has even returned in one piece. Luck sure is on his side. But that's even better. I'll get the opportunity to personally kill you, Yang Yutian. I could do nothing to you due to the limitations of the environment in the Two World Mountains, but now that we're outside, your life no longer lies in your hands. You're very strong, but no matter how strong you are you supposed to possess the power to rival the primordial realm? Zhou Ji of the Yuqiong clan, Gong Rui's of the Gong family, Zhao Wenbin of the Zhao family, and Kong Feiying of the Zhangqiong clan surged with killing intent when they received news about Jian Chen's return. At that moment, the five of them made the same decision: Yang Yutian must die. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2780, Various Reactions in the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. Jian Chen, He Qianshan, and Jin Hong were visited by over a dozen organizations soon after they had returned. Moreover, these organizations were personally led by their prodigies, and they arrived with lavish gifts. These people were obviously all warmly received by He Qianshan. She personally went out, inviting these representatives into the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. Then, she arranged a banquet to entertain them. Yang Yutian, looks like we've all underestimated you. We never thought you could actually survive for so long in the depths of the Two World Mountains. Your strength and courage are truly admirable, brother Yang Yutian. It was all thanks to you for standing forward and luring away the late God King life-devouring Beast King back then. If the Beast King managed to make its way into the group, the consequence would be unthinkable with its terrifying ability to devour life force. Brother Yang Yutian, tell us how you managed to escape from the life-devouring Beast King. Did you use the laws of space to completely outrun it? Though, you really are bold. The depths of the Two World Mountains are shrouded with mist, limiting your range of vision severely. Even the senses of souls are heavily suppressed. Under those circumstances, you were still bold enough to travel using the laws of space, completely undeterred by the possibility of running into a nest of danger from moving too quickly. Brother Yang, tell us how you managed to survive for all these days in the Two World Mountains, as well as what kinds of dangers you encountered so that we can all learn from you. A large, round table was covered with delicacies as the prodigies gathered around it, drinking and talking merrily. Candid laughter would ring out from time to time amidst the conversations. Jian Chen maintained a smile the entire time, dealing with everyone's questions calmly. As for what he went through in the Two World Mountains, he explained it all by weaving facts with lies. All of the facts were descriptions about the strangely shaped life-devouring beasts in the Two World Mountains. As for any parts that seemed dangerous, he touched on them lightly before moving on easily. Even though Jian Chen had described it with great ease, everyone present understood that the dangers and threats hidden within had completely exceeded their imaginations. After the banquet, the visiting prodigies all took out their gifts for Jian Chen. They wanted to express their gratitude and befriend him. Back in the Two World Mountains, these people had never been so enthusiastic, as even they were uncertain about whether they could emerge from the mountains in one piece. They had also contemplated whether Yang Yutian would end up dying in the Two World Mountains, so they all held back with how they treated him. Now that they had emerged successfully and the path of retreat had already been repaired, their lives were no longer under threat, so they clearly considered a much larger picture. They became interested in roping in a prodigy like Yang Yutian. After all, not only was he exceptionally talented, but he was also extraordinarily powerful. Of course, the true reason why these people were interested was because Yang Yutian was still an independent cultivator. As for the lavish gifts they had given out, they were just some supreme-grade divine crystals, various heavenly resources, pills, and so on. Someone even gave him the notes on cultivation from a 9th heavenly layer infinite prime. After all, Jian Chen was just a mid-god king in their eyes. They believed the standard of gifts they had given out would be extremely enticing to any god king, not to mention this was the Dark Star world where resources were scarce. As a result, these gifts became even more precious. Jian Chen really was uninterested in any of these items, but given the situation, he could only accept them reluctantly. I think we should hold a grand banquet for Yang Yutian in 3 days' time. We should invite all the organizations of the city to attend, to celebrate brother Yang Yutian's safe return. At this moment, Jin Hong came up with a suggestion. His suggestion made all the prodigies at the table fall into a temporary silence. Many of them were uncertain. They wanted to say something, but they hesitated, as they all felt that Jin Hong's suggestion was a bit of an overkill. In their eyes, they did indeed owe Yang Yutian a favor for his sacrifices in the Two World Mountains. However, favors came in different shapes and sizes. The favor they owed to Yang Yutian was not that big. They believed all they had to do was offer him some benefits. If they did not mind Yang Yutian's lowly identity as an independent cultivator, or they were interested in befriending and roping him in, they would just personally pay a visit like right now at most and thank him out of courtesy. That should have been enough. However, if they were supposed to hold a special, grand banquet that all organizations in the city participated just for Yang Yutian for this favor they owed him, it would indeed be going a little too far. If Yang Yutian possessed a major background, then they would be perfectly fine with Jin Hong's suggestion. However, he just happened to be an independent cultivator, someone without a sect or clan. It made the prodigies seated here rather reluctant to go along with it. Ha ha ha, all right. That's quite a good suggestion, brother Jin Hong. I, Ping Yisheng, will represent the Empire Lotus Sword sect and provide full support in arranging the banquet for Yang Yutian. The silence lasted for just a few seconds before Ping Yisheng expressed his opinion first, expressing his complete support of the idea. With someone taking the lead, all the prodigies present could only smile and express their agreement and support. Since they had come here in person, it had already expressed their take on this. They obviously could not change their minds now. First of all, this suggestion had come from Jin Hong. Given that there were no major conflicts of interest, they would never want to offend Jin Hong for no good reason. Moreover, these people were interested in befriending or roping in Jian Chen, so they obviously would not want to displease him over something as petty as this. I thank you all for your kind intentions, but you really mustn't. Jian Chen tried to decline immediately, but under the persuasions of Jin Hong, He Qianshan, and the prodigies, his objection became rather powerless. As a result, the matter of the grand banquet was decided like this. This news reached the various organizations in the city as quickly as possible. Among these organizations, basically everyone who admitted they owed Qianshan a favor had already gathered in the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. The rest clearly did not take him seriously. They all believed that Qianshan was supposed to make the sacrifices he did in the Two World Mountains. As such, as soon as they received the news, over half of the organization sneered in response. What's wrong with Jin Hong? He actually wants to make such a ruckus to hold a grand banquet for a mere independent cultivator, even requesting us all to attend. If it weren't for the fact that he's too powerful for me to be his opponent and he's the successor of a grand exalt, I really should slap him across the face. Jin Hong, oh Jin Hong. Do you really think we're still in the Two World Mountains, where you're in charge of everything? We've already taken back the 100 Saint City successfully, so the alliance from before no longer exists. Even if you have the halo of a grand exalt successor, you don't have any power over us anymore. As for this so-called banquet, what a joke. It's as foolish as you can get. Similar responses rang out in the divine halls in various regions of the city. Many prodigies snorted in contempt when they heard Jin Hong's suggestion. Of course, there were some exceptions too. In a completely violet divine hall, a young man sat on a throne in thought, clutching an invitation. A while later, a smile appeared on his face. He murmured, Jin Hong is clearly trying to befriend Yang Yutian with this, while the dozen or so other organizations are clearly participating because they're interested in Yang Yutian. Though, this Yang Yutian person really is quite capable. He can enter here, which means he's under a millennium old. To be able to reach his current level of cultivation at such a young age, he's even more monstrous than those prodigies raised by peak clans in the Saints' world. And, he just happens to be so powerful too. Deducing from his performance in the Two World Mountains, Yang Yutian's overall strength probably approaches Jin Hong's. Yep. If I can rope in a person with such monstrous talent into the clan, he'll definitely have grand achievements in the future once he's nurtured by the clan. It'll obviously be a service of great merit for me too as the person behind it all. When he thought up to this point, the young man's eyes lit up. He immediately called out, guards, immediately pick out some of the most beautiful women for me. They'll attend the banquet as representatives of our Violet Spirit clan. Tell them that if any of them manage to capture Yang Yutian's heart and gets him to join our Violet Spirits clan, I'll personally put in a good word for her to the Patriarch so that our Violet Spirits clan will focus our efforts on nurturing her. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2781, News about the Ice Pole Plane. Within the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall, the visiting prodigies had already left one after another. Only Jin Hong, Jian Chen, and He Qianshan were left inside. The gathering today had already ended, and Jin Hong was clearly thinking about leaving, but he seemed rather hesitant. He glanced at Jian Chen, as if he wanted to ask him something, but he stopped himself in the end. In reality, he had always been curious about what Jian Chen possessed. He wondered why his bloodline would become uncontrollably restless, or even overcome with desire, whenever he approached Jian Chen. This question had bugged him ever since they were in the Two World Mountains. However, none of them had any power over their fates back then. They did not even know whether they could emerge from the Two World Mountains alive, so why would he be in the mood to care about this? As a result, all he did was dismiss it temporarily. Now that he had settled down, he became eager to get to the bottom of this mystery again. However, he, Jin Hong, had his own morals to follow. He hesitated because the thing that roused his bloodline could be extremely important to Jian Chen. If he just asked about it rashly, it would be very inappropriate. It would be if it led to any misunderstandings. He was a member of the Wolf clan. He was born with a sharp sense of smell, and he had gained the legacy of a grand exalt, which made his sense of smell even sharper. Through this, he could clearly identify Jian Chen to be someone worthy of befriending, so he had wanted to become Jian Chen's acquaintance a long time ago. He did not want to make things difficult for Jian Chen over something like this either, which would make them drift apart. After hesitating for quite a while, Jin Hong decided to continue hiding the curiosity in his heart. He bid farewell to Jian Chen and He Qianqian before leaving the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. Yang Yutian, Jin Hong seems rather interested in you. He Qianqian had noticed Jin Hong's expressions, so she turned around and smiled slightly at Jian Chen. Perhaps. Jian Chen did not deny it. He obviously knew what Jin Hong was hesitating over. Clearly, he had been drawn to the essence blood from the ancient sky wolf. He knew it was impossible for Jin Hong to know that he possessed a droplet of essence blood, but by being attracted to it, Jin Hong could clearly deduce that Jian Chen possessed a great fortuitous encounter to him. Faced with an enticing fortuitous encounter, regular people probably would have tried stealing it from him already, regardless of the consequences. However, Jin Hong remained calm the entire time, without giving off a single hint of brutality or desire, which instead increased Jian Chen's respect for Jin Hong. In the saint's world, he had witnessed far too much deception and scheming. An organization like that can't even make it into the top 20 in the ice pole plane. In the eyes of our Heavenly Crane clan, it indeed is just a minor organization. After all, our Heavenly Crane clan is a powerful organization that ranks third on the plane. Aside from the Ice Goddess Hall, the Ice Pole Plane has a total of 18 organizations with Grand Primes. It's obvious just how powerful we are to be able to rank third among so many organizations. Even if the Moon God Hall has a Grand Prime now, they'll just be a low-level Grand Prime at most. With the strength of our Heavenly Crane clan, we can annihilate the Moon God Hall with a lift of a finger. When she reached there, He Qianqian showed a sliver of disdain. Clearly, she did not take the Moon God Hall seriously. As for why our Heavenly Crane clan did not take over the Ice Goddess Hall, that's obviously due to a form of respect towards the Ice Goddess Hall. That is the representation of our ice pole plane after all, as well as the glory of our plane. Even though it has already declined, it's still something that cannot be desecrated to our Heavenly Crane clan. He Qianqian's voice became softer and softer. This continued until the very end, when even she did not believe her words. Her eyes flickered. Only after a moment of hesitation did she say with uncertainty, "Perhaps there's something that I don't know about going on behind the Moon God Hall taking over the Ice Goddess Hall, as logically speaking, the Ice Goddess Hall is the pride of our ice pole plane, an existence that cannot be blasphemed." Yet in the end, despite so many peak organizations more powerful than the Moon God Hall, none of them interfered and stopped them. Instead, they allowed the Moon God Hall to take over the Ice Goddess Hall. It makes no sense at all. Jian Chen was rather speechless. Originally, he wanted to learn a little bit about the Ice Goddess Hall and the Moon God Hall from He Qianqian. After all, one of these two places was connected to his elder sister, Changyang Mingyue, while the other was connected to Fairy Haoyu. Yet, in the end, he discovered that He Qianqian did not even know as much as him despite being from the ice pole plane. Though, it did make sense. He Qianqian was just a god king after all, and she was young. She obviously would not know much about overly secret information. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2782, Releasing the Seal. Afterwards, Jian Chen asked He Qianqian about a little more, primarily regarding the situation of the Moon God Hall and the Ice Goddess Hall. Unfortunately, he only learned a limited amount. After all, almost all information regarding the Ice Goddess Hall and the Moon God Hall was a secret. Perhaps primordial realm experts might have known a little more, but it would be very difficult for He Qianshan to come into contact with something like this with her strength. Yang Yutian, have you become interested in joining our Heavenly Crane clan, seeing how interested you are in the ice pole plane? With your talent, you'll definitely receive great support if you join our Heavenly Crane clan. Even reaching Chaotic Prime won't be an issue for you in the future. He Qianshan stared at Jian Chen as her eyes flickered. She was no fool. She had already realized Jian Chen's potential back then in the Two World Mountains. With his talent, many peak clans and organizations in the Saints' world would obviously try to rope him in. That was because a figure like him could potentially become a pillar of support for the clan at a certain point in the future if he was nurtured properly. He could even grow into a towering existence that supported the entire clan. Jian Chen smiled and said, I don't have any plans on joining an organization right now. Though, I do look forward to seeing the ice pole plane. I really do want to see it with my own eyes. After all, not only is the ice pole plane one of the 7 sacred plains, but I've also heard that it's riddled with ice and snow, snowing all year round. Cultivating in such a cold climate can heavily suppress the growth of inner demons, preventing the risk of suffering from cultivation deviation. Jian Chen and He Qianshan spoke fervently. At this moment, an old, over-god servant of the Heavenly Crane clan rushed in from outside. His face was filled with joy. Young miss, young miss. There's good news. There's fantastic news. The 7th Divine Hall has already removed the seal over the teleportation formations. All of us can freely use the teleportation formations now. The old servant had begun speaking excitedly from a very long way away. His face had already reddened completely, clearly extremely excited. Hearing the news, He Qianshan was left at a loss at first, as if she had yet to react to it. However, she stood up excitedly in the next moment and questioned in a hurry, what did you say? The seal over the teleportation formations has been released. Are you certain about this? I'm completely certain, young miss, completely certain. It can't be wrong. It definitely can't be wrong. There have already been people who have left the Dark Star world through the teleportation formations, the old servant said with absolute certainty. He Qianshan immediately became overjoyed. The teleportation formation in their 100 Saint city was close to being repaired. As such, even if the Dark Star race had not removed the seal over the teleportation formations, the 100 Saint city would not be particularly affected. When they needed to, they could still use the teleportation formation in the 100 Saint city to directly transport themselves to the entrance of the world. However, this was not the true meaning behind releasing the seal over the teleportation formations. Most importantly, it was a gesture from the 7th Divine Hall. Since the 7th Divine Hall was willing to open the teleportation formations for them to come and go freely, it meant the 7th Divine Hall would not be targeting their 100 Saint city for now. They would be safe for some time at the very least. At the same time, it also demonstrated the 5th Divine Hall's determination to protect them. It gave them an understanding of the 5th Divine Hall's power from the sidelines. The 5th Divine Hall really has done it. I never thought the 5th Divine Hall could get the 7th Divine Hall to reopen the teleportation formations so quickly, He Qianshan murmured, but as if she had remembered something, her joy vanished rapidly. She became stern. Though, as for the 5th Divine Hall's demands, all I can do is pass the message on and get the clan to decide on the matter. At that moment, He Qianshan could no longer care about Jian Chen. She immediately took out a feather from her space ring before cutting her finger and dripping a droplet of blood on there. This was a special method of communication from the Heavenly Crane clan, merging the message to be passed on into the droplet of blood and using a feather as a carrier. It was a method no one could replicate. Send someone out immediately and take this message out to the clan, He Qianshan passed the feather to the old servant and ordered. The old servant replied politely before going off to carry out the orders. At the same time, the many peak organizations in the city also received the news of the unsealed teleportation formations. After a moment of joy, they immediately began to pen messages for their people to deliver. Just in case, there were even a few organizations who wrote multiple secret messages and sent many cultivators to carry them out. Immediately, over 1,000 cultivators rushed out of the 100 Saint City. Every single one of them carried a secret message. They rushed to Dark Knight City as quickly as they could before leaving through the teleportation formations there. In the depths of the Two World Mountains, a huge swirl of energy hung in the sky. This swirl of energy was the only passageway connecting the two worlds. The passageway was located in the only safe region within the Two World Mountains. It was enveloped by a powerful energy, completely blocking out the thick mist and all life-devouring beasts. This place was the personal handiwork of Grand Exalts. It possessed the laws set down by Grand Exalts, which was why the peace here had never been broken across the countless years. At this moment, an ancient teleportation formation that had remained silent for a very long time suddenly lit up with dazzling light near the passageway. Cultivators emerged one after another. They observed the surroundings first. When they spotted the huge passageway in the sky, they could not help but cheer out loud. "We've crossed through the mountain successfully. This is fantastic. We can finally leave. The people of the Dark Star race can't come here. They'll be slain by the power in the space the moment they appear here, which means we're safe now. This isn't a scheme of the Dark Star race. They're really letting us return." Among the cultivators, a portion had been sent over from the 100 Saint City, while the others did not come from the 100 Saint City. They were people teleported over from other cities of the Dark Star race. After all, the several dozen peak organizations of the 100 Saint City only formed a small fraction of the outsiders active among the Dark Star race. Most of them came from other organizations of the Saints' world. They included people from weaker organizations and independent cultivators. After cheering, they rushed into the sky without the slightest hesitation, vanishing into the passageway in the end. On the other side of the passageway was one of the 5 remaining sacred lands of the Spirit's world, the Starsource continent. At this moment, in Starsource City on the Starsource continent, a series of figures floated in the air, either standing or sitting with their legs crossed. They were around a similar vortex of energy that hung in the sky. They gathered around the passageway, radiating with tremendous presences. These people were all experts who had reached Chaotic Prime, and they had made quite the progress already as Chaotic Primes. Most of them were above the 4th heavenly layer, with very few below. If any single one of them had entered the Dark Star world, they would be invincible existences who could run amok freely. Even someone as powerful as the Dark Star Emperor would not be their opponent. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2783, Inside Starsource City. The Chaotic Primes gathered around the passageway amounted to several dozen. They did not talk with each other, either resting with their eyes closed or staring straight at the passageway, as if they wanted to peer through the vortex of energy and directly see what was inside. Of course, there were far more Chaotic Primes gathered in the surroundings than these people on the surface. Divine halls hovered behind them. Every single divine hall flowed with energy and shone with dazzling light, radiating with the might of a powerful god artifact. There were several dozen divine halls, almost all at mid-grade. There were even 2 divine halls that had reached high grade among them. High-grade god artifacts were normally in the possession of Grand Primes. As a matter of fact, even some low-level Grand Primes did not possess such god artifacts. They could already be considered as great treasures in the Saints' world. Some peak clans even used a high-grade god artifact as their clan treasure. That only demonstrated the value and power of high-grade god artifacts. The Chaotic Primes gathered around the passageway would glance past the 2 high-grade god artifacts from time to time. Apart from the reverence and fear in their eyes, there would also be a hint of obscurity too, as they tried their best to disguise their coveting, greedy emotions. Clearly, the two divine halls had interested many people, but no one tried to steal them. That was because the two high-grade god artifacts belonged to the Dire Wolf clan and the Hao family. To ensure the safety of their young master, Jin Hong, the Dire Wolf clan had even sent one of their ancestors to escort him. He resided in the Divine Hall right now. As for the Divine Hall of the Hao family, it did not contain an ancestor like the Dire Wolf clan, but there was not a single expert in the Saints' world who would ever consider taking something from the Hao family. If all the organizations scattered around the passageway right now were summoned up, there would be several hundreds of them. There were peak organizations with grand primes, as well as first-rate organizations that completely depended on their chaotic primes. They gathered there waiting for news to emerge from the Dark Star world. Some of the experts had already become worried or anxious. They had no idea what had happened in the Dark Star world, nor did they have any idea about the situation, as their connection with the Dark Star world had been completely severed already. Even when they sent more people in later, they would be trapped at the entrance due to the disabled teleportation formation, forced to return powerlessly. Many chaotic primes could sense that something was off from all this. The world of the fallen beast had a direct connection to their interests, so if anything happened in there, it would be a catastrophic loss to them and the clans and sects they represented. At this moment, the huge swirl of energy in the sky suddenly surged by a minuscule amount. It was very easy to miss. However, everyone gathered in the surroundings were chaotic primes at the very least. Their senses were so powerful that even the subtlest incident around them could not escape their senses. In that instant, the chaotic primes gathered in the surroundings all snapped their eyes open. Their gazes all gathered on the swirl of energy. Behind them, many figures of all ages and genders emerged from the levitating divine halls. Their presences were as tremendous as the ocean, extremely powerful. In the next moment, a cultivator suddenly fell out from the passageway. The eyes of the chaotic primes immediately lit up with his return, as he was not a member of the group they had sent in for investigation afterwards. This meant he had returned from among the Dark Star race, so he must have been carrying the most recent news about the Dark Star race. Behind, the powerful figures who had emerged from the divine halls all arrived near the passageway in a single step. However, just when they were about to question the cultivator who had just emerged, even more people suddenly fell out of the passageway. In that instant, an endless amount of people returned from the world of the fallen beast, falling out of the swirl like an avalanche. Very soon, the number exceeded 10,000, but there were still no signs of stopping. This sight astounded the chaotic primes, who had spent several months here waiting arduously. Just a moment ago, they were still praying that someone could return from the world of the fallen beast so that they could learn about the exact situation among the Dark Star race. Even a single person would have sufficed. But never did they think that so many people would return all of a sudden, which made them rather flustered. However, they found their own people within the group very soon, so with a sweep of their arms, the power of their terrifying cultivation swept away their people, and they vanished from their previous locations. The return of these people came with the latest news. The organizations who had not contributed to the construction of the 100 Saints city or were unrelated to it were mostly unaffected, but the people from the peak organizations of the 100 Saints city all frowned the moment they received the news. Some of the short-tempered chaotic primes even erupted with curses. Humph, they're from a measly, thumb-sized place, and they're still so arrogant. If it weren't for the fact that I can't enter, I would definitely flatten the entire Dark Star race. What? The Dark Star race has actually killed so many descendants of our clan. How dare they? How dare they? They're a tiny race, yet they actually want to offend our Star clan. The Dark Star race has gone too far. That so-called 7th Divine Hall deserves to die. And that 5th Divine Hall, they've actually put forward such a rude request. Do they really think they're a big deal? Aren't they afraid I'll kill them all the moment they come out in the future? The items that the Dark Star race require have reached the God tier. We have plenty of pills and heavenly resources at that level in our clan, and we can even offer quite a lot to them. It's just that none of these items can be brought in, the passageway is limited by the laws of the Grand Exalts. Not a single item that exceeds the limit can be brought in. The fifth divine hall really has given us quite the problem to solve. My clan cannot afford to lose our foundation in the Dark Star race, or it'll be a great loss for us. This clearly isn't something we can resolve. It's best if we report this to our ancestors. The chaotic primes spoke one after another. Apart from their fury, they felt extremely powerless too. In the end, they all transmitted the news back to their clans for their ancestors to decide on the matter. Even the Grand Prime Ancestor of the Dire Wolf clan present expressed, "My Dire Wolf clan does possess what the fifth divine hall requires, but we can't bring it in either. It's fine if my clan gives up on our business in the Dark Star race as long as our young master can return safely." On the ice pole plain within the Heavenly Crane clan, their ancestors bathed in a pure white light, obscuring their appearance. They answered, "Contact the clansmen among the Dark Star race and let them know that the clan cannot fulfill the fifth divine hall's request. At the same time, have them do whatever they can to gather the required items during this period of time." After saying that, the ancestor let out a deep sigh. The source water of ways only forms where Grand Exalts have fallen after a series of natural reactions. Without the source water of ways, we won't be able to use some of the functions among the holy grounds of our Heavenly Crane clan to nurture our juniors. That'll be quite the loss to the clan, and the soil of divine blood too. So far, we've only discovered it in the Dark Star world. It's an important material for refining the ancestral blood pill. Without it, the effects of the ancestral blood pill will decrease by as much as 30%. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Only by adding some water of life from the Dark Star race do we have a chance at refining pills of life and death of the 12th cycle. If we lose our business in the Dark Star world, it'll be difficult to collect water of life, yeah. Without the water of life, we won't be able to refine 12th cycle pills of life and death, and we won't be able to complete our deal with the Heaven-splitting clan and the Heaven sect. According to the deal, our Jade Pill sect will have to compensate them on fold. That'll be a huge loss. It's not just the 12th cycle pills of life and death. Many high-level god-tier pills we refine require materials from the Dark Star world. After all, the Two World Mountains was personally created by the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits. Even a blade of grass from there contains extremely high levels of life force. As a matter of fact, some of the heavenly resources even possess some shattered laws of life, which makes them the perfect material for refining various pills. Not only can they increase the success rate, but they can strengthen the effects of the pills too. This has too great of an impact on our Jade Pill sect. This is beyond our abilities. Let's report it to the ancestor. Even if we have to pay quite the price, we have to protect our business in the Dark Star world. Very soon, the two Grand Prime ancestors in the Jade Pill sect received the news, and they immediately emerged from secluded cultivation. After gaining a detailed understanding, they both fell silent. A while later, one of the ancestors said, "We have to protect our business in the Dark Star world no matter what. If we lose the Dark Star world, then we can only rely on other organizations to collect these precious items for us, but with that, our Jade Pill sect will become bound to others. And, they'll definitely take advantage of this to extort us greedily. Go and invite the Azure Ink Grandmaster of the Pill King clan, the Pill-worshipping Venerable of the Pill-nurturing clan, and the Soul Pill Ancestor of the Ancient Pill sect. At the same time, contact the upper echelon of the Empyrean Demon cult. Our Jade Pill sect is willing to offer a good price for 10,000 pure souls. They just have to be at peak God King. We will create a new pill." The news from the 100 Saints city directly alarmed several dozen peak organizations in the Saints world. The ancestors of many organizations even asked about this matter personally, as they required many of the resources that the Dark Star world produced. As a matter of fact, some special resources were necessities to certain peak clans. Some of these resources just happened to be irreplaceable, and the only place that produced them was the Dark Star world. As a result, the various peak organizations all attached great importance to this matter. But in the end, the majority of the peak organizations were powerless against the Fifth Divine Hall's demands, or they were able to fulfill the demands, but the price was just too great, so great that it had exceeded the value that the Dark Star race could bring for them. Consequently, only a handful of organizations came up with plans in the end, and they carried them out fervently. Of course, only the peak organizations from the 100 Saints City were distressed. All the other clans and organizations who had not joined the 100 Saints City were completely unaffected. In contrast, these organizations even sent in groups of people eagerly, wave after wave, carrying tremendous amounts of divine crystals and various resources. This was because the Dark Star race had announced they required large quantities of divine crystals, tremendous quantities of divine crystals. In exchange, they were willing to offer some precious items. Just as the peak organizations were being riled up by the Fifth Divine Hall's demands, the person behind it all, Jian Chen, was receiving guests at the entrance of the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. He received representatives of the various organizations who had come to attend the banquet. The banquet was arranged with Jin Hong and He Qianqian in charge and the combined efforts of over a dozen organizations. They invited everyone to celebrate Jian Chen's safe return. Obviously, not everyone in the 100 Saints City came to this banquet. Only 2/3 of the organizations actually attended. Among the 2/3, over half of them had just sent some attendants or envoys to participate as a courtesy, giving Jian Chen words of congratulations. Not a lot of people who held actual importance attended. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2785, The Hao Family of the Prosper Plain. The young sect master of the Empire Lotus Sword Sect, Ping Yisheng, has arrived. The young miss of the Haiman clan, Man Yunjun, has arrived. The young master of the 100 Battle clan, Bai Zhanxiong, has arrived. The direct disciple of the Heaven sect, Mo Shang, has arrived. At the entrance of the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall, the servants for receiving the guests called out again and again. The representatives of the many peak organizations stepped into the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. Jian Chen received everyone inside. Even though he knew these people all represented dominant, peak organizations in the Saints' world, he had no idea which organizations were stronger or weaker. He Qianqian gave a detailed introduction regarding their exact influence and power secretly, as if she was afraid Jian Chen would mistreat them. Yang Yutian, you have to handle these people carefully. You can't afford to offend them, because there was some existences among them that even our Heavenly Crane clan fears. In particular, this person called Mo Shang comes from the Heaven sect, the #1 organization on planet Kangmang of one of the 81 major planets of the Saints' world, because one of their ancestor is a peak 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime, as well as the Lord of planet Kangmang. He is someone who possesses terrifying influence. And I've heard a great elder in my clan mention that their strongest ancestor, the Planet Lord, has already tried breaking through to higher levels. Once this ancestor actually makes it to the 7th heavenly layer, the Heaven sect status will climb by quite a bit in the entire Saints world. When he heard about the Heaven sect, Jian Chen's heart skipped a beat. He immediately recalled the person called Zhan Yun who called himself a great elder of the Heaven sect he had met outside. And, he had heard from Zhan Yun that the Heaven sect had rather close ties with the Myriad Bone Guild. But clearly, the Heaven sect was extremely fearful of the Myriad Bone Guild's heartless child. Young masters Hao Ran and Hao Qin of the Hao family have arrived. At this moment, the receiving servant's voice rang out again. As soon as she heard the Hao family, He Qianqian's expression changed slightly. She was surprised. The Hao families actually come too, and they've sent the two young masters, Hao Ran and Hao Chen. Yang Yutian, listen closely. If you could afford to offend over 90% of the peak organizations in the 100 Saint City, then the Hao family would be one of the few you can't offend. And, the people who've come from the Hao family this time aren't people who bear no influence either. Instead, they're direct descendants of the Hao family. They possess quite the status in the Hao family. Is the Hao family even stronger than the Heaven sect of planet Kangmeng? Oh right, I've heard that the Hao family seems to come from the Prosper Plane. The Prosper Plane is also one of the 7 sacred planes of the Saints' world, Jian Chen asked secretly. He was not unfamiliar with Hao Ran and Hao Chen. When he had first emerged from the 2 world mountains, he had once saved them under the identity of Gu Qi, helping them avert a crisis. Otherwise, he really had no idea whether the two of them would still be alive. While the battle prowess of these two people were slightly worse compared to He Qianxian, Ping Yisheng and the others, their statuses were clearly much higher. Just as he asked He Qianxian, Jian Chen had gone up to receive them enthusiastically. He engaged in some small chit-chat with them, before inviting Hao Ran and Hao Qing into the hall. Fellow Yang Yutian, I've already heard about everything that's happened in the 2 world mountains from Zi Xiaoji. It was all thanks to the existence of a powerful expert like fellow Yang Yutian that everyone could emerge from the 2 world mountains smoothly. Otherwise, even if they emerged in one piece, they still would have suffered horrific losses, and they probably wouldn't have possessed enough power to take back the 100 Saint City. Hao Ran and Hao Chen was amiable. They did not put on airs as they smiled gently. Jian Chen recognized them, but they failed to recognize Jian Chen as Gu Qi who had once saved them in the 2 world mountains. At this moment, He Qianxian's stern voice rang out in Jian Chen's head, compared to the Heaven sect of planet Kangmeng, the Hao family is indeed much stronger. Even on the Prosper Plane littered with experts, the Hao family is a super-organization that no one dares to provoke. This is all because the Hao family produced an extremely powerful ancestor. People revere him as the Yen ancestor. It's exactly because the existence of this Yen ancestor at the Hao family has become such an untouchable organization. That's because not only is the Yen ancestor a 7th heavenly layer Grand Prime, he's also the commander of the divine generals in the heavenly palace of Bisheng. He possesses extremely great status within the heavenly palace of Bisheng, enough for him to speak directly with the First Majesty. How can you call the Hao family weak if they possess such a connection? Admiration filled He Qianxian's eyes. Even without exceptional personal strength, a powerful background was enough to garner respect no matter where they went. After learning that, Jian Chen could not help but glance at Hao Ran and Hao Chen again. He immediately became more attached to them. With his connection to Ming Dong, the Hao family was not exactly outsiders to him. Apart from the Hao family, there's the Heavenly Lightning clan that you can't afford to offend either. Although the strength of the Heavenly Lightning clan is similar to our Heavenly Crane clan at most, or even slightly worse, they also possess a great background. I've heard the Great Elder mention that behind the Heavenly Lightning clan is one of the 8 Archean clans, the Lightning God clan. He's warned us sternly to never provoke them. He Qianxian was solemn. None of what she told him was a secret among the peak organizations. It was basically public information, so there was nothing taboo about it. It was just that regular cultivators could never come in contact with something like that. Jian Chen was shocked when he reached there. He obviously knew about Archean clans. Even across the entire Saints world, there were only 8 clans like that, and every single one of them had existed for eons. They possessed extremely terrifying strength. That was because clans like that had once birthed Grand Exalts, except the clans survived after the deaths of the Grand Exalts. They still inherited the many supreme secret techniques left behind by the Grand Exalts and the supreme god artifacts used by Grand Exalts. Apart from that, Archean clans even possessed 9th heavenly layer Grand Primes. Only by fulfilling these conditions could they be known as Archean clans. Without any exaggeration at all, there was nothing that could strike fear into Archean clans across the entire Saints world apart from figures of supremacy like Grand Exalts. Even the Heaven-Splitting clan that also possessed a ninth heavenly layer Grand Prime, the Heaven-Splitting ancestor, paled in comparison to Archean clans, because their heritages were on completely different levels. The Heavenly Lightning Clan. The Lightning God Clan. Jian Chen memorized the two names. Now, he already knew about 2 of the 8 Archean clans that currently existed in the Saints world, which were the Dao clan and the Lightning God clan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2786, Asking for the Pill Formula. The reason why He Qianshan had given such a detailed introduction about the Hao family and the Heavenly Lightning clan to Jian Chen was because they possessed terrifyingly great backgrounds. One had the Heavenly Palace of Bishan, while the other had an Archean clan. However, only the Hao family sent people to attend this banquet among the 2 organizations. The Heavenly Lightning clan was not present. Of course, aside from these 2 organizations, there were other powerful organizations that the Heavenly Crane clan feared within the 100 Saint City, but they just paled in comparison to the Hao family and the Heavenly Lightning clan. He Qianshan only warned Jian Chen about them and did not give him an overly detailed introduction. Very soon, the banquet formally began in the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. As the main star, he was fated to be the most busy today. After giving a speech at the beginning, he walked around with a wine cup with a smile on his face, modestly toasting the people from the various organizations. It did not matter whether these people present today were leaders of an organization or mere envoys or servants. They were guests. As long as they could make it today, it was a form of recognition, so Jian Chen obviously would handle them with courtesy. As he did that, many organizations secretly or openly extended a recruiting hand towards Jian Chen, offering him numerous, lavish conditions and many benefits for him to join their clans. In short, the offers he had received were so great that they could interest any God King independent cultivator, or even drive them crazy. They were even enough to tempt experts who had just broken through to the primordial realm to a certain degree. Unfortunately, Jian Chen was not a God King, but a primordial realm expert, and not any regular primordial realm expert, but a figure who was so wealthy that he could tempt Grand Primes. As a result, the offers from these organizations obviously did not pique his interest. He turned them all down with the excuse that he did not want to be tied down. The reason why these organizations were willing to attend this banquet for his sake was mainly because they wanted to rope Jian Chen in. All of them were well prepared. Seeing how their resources were unable to tempt Jian Chen, they all made a signal by glancing. Immediately, many women who had attended the banquet with them stood up. Every single one of them were great beauties who were chosen after careful selection. Both their appearances and figures were the best of the best. With an enchanting smile, they all approached Jian Chen, conversing with Jian Chen gently. Some of these women even tried to accidentally brush past Jian Chen, with their eyes filled with admiration and in a trance. But what hadn't Jian Chen been through already? He remained utterly unfazed from something like this. He seemed composed, shifting his feet gently and avoiding them easily. Jin Hong and He Qianshan took note of this nearby. Jin Hong remained the same as before, but He Qianshan smiled in interest. She said gently, "I never thought Yang Yutian would be more warmly received than I imagined. He's earned the favor of so many large organizations and they're even trying to seduce him with women now. Some of these women are people who are well versed in techniques of enchantment. They're no good in battle, but they're almost unmatched when it comes to seducing men. I wonder if Yang Yutian can control himself." Don't worry, Yang Yutian is anything but ordinary. These techniques are all going to be useless against Yang Yutian. Jin Hong remained indifferent. He held the leg of a beast in his hand, wolfing it down. With each bite, dense life force would ooze out. The leg of an unknown beast clearly originated from the life-devouring beasts of the Two World Mountains. He Qianqian looked at Jin Hong and said seriously, "Young Master Jin Hong, you've assisted Yang Yutian time and time again. I don't think it's completely out of gratitude for what he did in the Two World Mountains, is it? You're also interested in roping in Yang Yutian, right?" Jin Hong only replied after careful consideration, "I really haven't considered roping in Yang Yutian before, because I don't see how my clan is suitable for him. Though, in my opinion, your Heavenly Crane clan has a very good chance." "Oh. Tell me about it. Just what is our Heavenly Crane clan supposed to offer to entice a prodigy like Yang Yutian into joining?" "If Yang Yutian really joins my clan, it'll be quite the deed," He Qianqian said. There were no organizations in the Saints' world which would give up on monstrously talented geniuses. Organizations could fight over someone like Yang Yutian. Jin Hong gazed at He Qianqian deeply and said, "First come, first served. Yang Yutian's technically a part of your Heavenly Crane clan right now, so how difficult can it be to rope him in? If you personally tried to capture Yang Yutian's heart, you really have quite a high chance." He Qianqian was clearly taken aback, which she then smiled bitterly, "Young Master Jin Hong, I'm different from you. You're already the young patriarch in your clan. You possess an extremely special status, where even your grand prime ancestor takes special care of you. As for me, I'm just a slightly talented clansman of the Heavenly Crane clan. My talent is nowhere close to yours, much less my status. The fate and marriage of a clansman like me is destined to be arranged by my seniors in the clan. Even if I get married, my husband will definitely be a member of a large organization with a great background. Yang Yutian and I are people of two different worlds." The banquet ended and the guests dispersed. Very soon, the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall recovered its usual peace. He Qianqian arrived before Jian Chen and seemed to smile at him. There were so many alluring beauties in the banquet. "Has none of them caught your eye?" Jian Chen remained calm. He said seriously, "In my mind, there are only two thoughts, cultivation and becoming stronger. There is no room for the affairs of love. And, as an independent cultivator, I have gone through much more and experienced much more than people like you, born into those large clans. The affairs of love no longer hold much significance to me at all." He Qianqian studied Jian Chen with a strange expression. People have 7 emotions and 6 desires. Even some old monsters who have cultivated for millions or even tens of millions of years are unable to let go of them, still bewitched by them, enough to go crazy for them. You're not even 1,000 years old and you say you've already detached yourself from the desire of love. Is that a flaw in your personality? Or your talent? Jian Chen did not want to dwell on this topic anymore, so he changed the conversation. Basically all of these organizations possess 100 Tribulations God King pills. Surely the formula for the pill isn't particularly precious, right? He Qianqian's eyes flashed from that. She replied with a question, "Don't tell me you're interested in the formula for refining 100 Tribulations God King pills." "That's right, I'm very interested in the pill. How can I get my hands on the pill formula?" Jian Chen asked. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2787, News. He Qianqian seemed to guess Jian Chen's thoughts. "Yang Yutian, hear me out. Don't think about refining 100 Tribulations God King pills by yourself. This pill is nowhere near as simple as you think it is." "Really? Then can you tell me in detail just how it's different?" Jian Chen was interested. He currently possessed over 30,000 stalks of God King grass, and they were all high grade. In order to limit the strength of outsiders, high-grade God King grass had never been traded away. The organizations in the 100 Saint City probably did not even know about their existence. As a result, he would never reveal the high-grade God King grass before others, just in case it led to unnecessary trouble. However, if he could not refine God King grass into God King pills, they would be useless, and if he wanted to turn them into 100 Tribulation God King pills without exposing them, he had to refine the pills himself. Of course, the 100 Tribulations should be removed from 100 Tribulations God King pills if they were refined from high-grade God King grass. He Qianqian explained, Yang Yutian, do you know why 100 Tribulations God King pills refined from 100 Tribulations grass can allow a regular cultivator to become a God King in such a short amount of time? Why something as wondrous as 100 Tribulations grass has never appeared in the boundless saints world, yet it just comes from the miniature dark star world? That's because their formation has something to do with the grand exalt of the dark star race that died. Jian Chen said. He Qianqian nodded. That's right. The formation of 100 Tribulations grass is indeed connected to the grand exalt of the dark star race. Perhaps it's closely linked to the ancient beast that became the dark star world too. However, it's exactly because 100 Tribulations grass is connected to experts like that refining 100 Tribulations God King pills from them is anything but easy. That's because 100 Tribulation grass hides a mysterious and powerful energy. Even the great elders of our various clans are unable to explain whether it comes from the grand exalt of the dark star race or the vicious beast that became the world of the fallen beast. However, whenever a stalk of 100 Tribulations grass is refined into a 100 Tribulations God King pill, this energy will erupt. It's so powerful that it's well beyond what you and I can withstand with our cultivation. It's impossible to suppress it without a cultivation at chaotic prime, much less refine it into pills. Whether it's our Heavenly Crane clan or the other peak organizations, they all require the combined efforts of 2 chaotic prime great elders in order to successfully refine 100 Tribulations God King pills. You can't refine 100 Tribulations God King pills without a cultivation at chaotic prime. Just refining the pill is so difficult already, not to mention you need to add in various priceless materials too as you refine it. These aren't conditions that an independent cultivator can fulfill. As a matter of fact, many organizations with chaotic primes can't even afford to refine 100 Tribulations God King pills. That's because the cost of refining the pill and the benefits derived are on completely different levels. Only peak organizations like us who possess foundations among the Dark Star race will be willing to expend tremendous effort into refining these pills to protect our interests among the Dark Star race. He Qianqian gazed at Jian Chen deeply. She continued, Yang Yutian, I know it's a piece of cake for you to kill powerful life-devouring beasts to exchange for 100 Tribulations grass with the Dark Star race. You might even be able to accumulate a large stock of 100 Tribulations grass in a short time through this method, but I still hope you will offer these 100 Tribulations grasses to our Heavenly Crane clan, as they're completely useless to you. There is no way you can make use of them. Thank you for explaining, Miss Chen. However, I'm still interested in the pill formula. I'm even willing to use 100 Tribulations grass to exchange for the pill formula. May I ask just how many stalks I need for the Heavenly Crane clan to exchange the pill formula with me? Jian Chen did not change his mind. It was not like he did not have chaotic primes. He had one in the Tian Yuan clan right now. There was him too. If he could make another breakthrough with the chaotic body, he would basically be a chaotic prime. Seeing how insistent Jian Chen was, He Qianqian knew any further attempts at convincing him otherwise would be useless. She sighed gently. All right. Since you insist on getting your hands on the pill formula, I'll ask about it for you. However, this isn't something I can decide on, and I don't have the pill formula either. I'll have to send people back to ask the seniors in my clan. Afterwards, He Qianqian used a secret technique to pen a message before sending people out to ask the upper echelon in her clan in the outside world. Very soon, the reply from the outside world reached the 100 Saint City. He Qianqian received 2 messages. After looking through them, she told Jian Chen rather helplessly, "The clan has replied. The clan paid a hefty price in exchange for the formula to refine 100 Tribulations God King pills, and they have an agreement to keep it a secret." Jian Chen frowned from that. He never expected the pill formula that almost every organization in the 100 Saint City possessed would actually be so difficult to obtain. This surprised him a little. At this moment, He Qianshan continued, "Though, I think you'll be interested in the other news." As she said that, He Qianshan took out the second feather and checked the contents with her secret technique. Her expression immediately changed, overcome by shock. She seemed dumbstruck. Only after quite a while did she return to her senses. Her chest heaved up and down, only demonstrating how perturbed she was. She only managed to recover after a very long time. Afterwards, she sank into silent thought before seemingly deciding on something in the very end. With a flip of her hand, a jade slip immediately appeared in her hand. She left some of the information in the jade slip and passed it to Jian Chen. At the same time, she said, "This is the news I received from a great elder in my clan. Regular cultivators have no right to know this. Once you've read through it, please destroy it." Jian Chen accepted the jade slip rather curiously and sent in the senses of his soul. The jade slip recorded a few events that happened on the ice pole plain. In particular, it had a detailed introduction to the Ice Goddess Hall and the Moon God Hall. Nan Patian of the Moon God Hall was mentioned too. In general, it said that the Ice Goddess had already died and her remains were in the depths of the Ice Goddess Hall. Nan Patian of the Moon God Hall and one of the 4 protectors of the Ice Goddess Hall, Wu Han, had already joined the Flame Reverend. The Flame Reverend wanted to get his hands on the Ice Goddess remains, so he attacked the Ice Goddess Hall through Nan Patian, and then he attempted to find the remains through Wu Han. Even though the peak organizations of the Ice Pole Plain understood the Flame Venerable's plans, they were powerless to stop him. As a result, all they could do was sit aside and watch this unfold. Although there were also a few other experts who desired the Ice Goddess remains, they all backed down out of fright due to the Flame Venerable's name. That was because the Flame Venerable was a supreme expert who had reached the 9th heavenly layer of Grand Prime. Even if all the peak organizations on the Ice Pole Plain worked together, they would not be the opponent of an expert like the Flame Venerable. However, Jian Chen also learnt from the Jade Slip that while the Flame Venerable had schemed for many years, he was still unable to enter the depths of the Ice Goddess Hall, as the Ice Goddess Hall was a Grand Exalt Supreme God artifact. Even with its artifact spirit missing, it could still block the attacks of 9th heavenly layer Grand Primes with its defenses and pure toughness. Destroying a God artifact like that required power on par with Grand Exalts. A few decades ago, the previous daughter of the Moon God appeared silently. She was discovered by the Hall Master of the Moon God Hall, Nan Patian. They engaged in an intense battle. In the end, the daughter of the Moon God was heavily injured and captured. At this moment, another piece of news floated through Jian Chen's head, which immediately made his heart tighten. His emotions surged. Fairy Hao Yu has been heavily injured and captured. At that moment, Jian Chen felt like he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. His mind shuddered. Fairy Hao Yu had actually fallen into Nan Potion's hands. With the grievances that existed between Nan Patian and her, nothing good could come out of that. Half a year ago, the Empyrean Demon Lord suddenly descended upon the Ice Pole Plain. The Hall Master of the Moon God Hall, Nan Patian, fled into the Ice Goddess Hall. Afterwards, the Empyrean Demon Lord forced his way into the Ice Goddess Hall alone, slaying 2 saints under the Flame Venerable's command as well as the 3 ancestors of the Hufan clan. Nan Patian of the Moon God Hall also fell. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2788, He Qianshan's suspicion. When he saw the news at the end, Jian Chen became extremely excited. He was overjoyed. Senior Mo Tianyun actually killed his way onto the ice pole plain, even forcing his way into the ice goddess hall and slaying the fleeing hall master of the moon god hall, Nan Patian. Nan Patian is a colossal enemy of Fairy Hao Yu. With his death, that's basically revenge for her. I just wonder how she is doing, Jian Chen thought. As soon as he remembered that Fairy Hao Yu's fate was unknown, he became worried. I hope nothing happens to Fairy Hao Yu, Jian Chen prayed inside. He did not have a lot of friends, but Fairy Hao Yu happened to be one of them. Right now, he was so worried for her that he was almost tempted to immediately venture to the ice pole plain. However, Sacred Feather was still trapped, so he was forced to remain in the Dark Star world. This was because everything had already happened on the ice pole plain. If something had really happened to Fairy Hao Yu, it would be very difficult for him to do anything even if he rushed over. However, the situation with the Dark Star race was different. Sacred Feather's fate was completely within his grasp. As Jian Chen worried for Fairy Hao Yu, He Qianshan was greatly perturbed. She seemed like she had been completely shaken up, muttering in a daze, the three ancestors of the Hufeng clan have actually all died. This can't be true. This can't be true. Jian Chen suppressed his worries for Fairy Hao Yu when he heard her and asked, what kind of organization is the Hufeng clan on the ice pole plain? On the ice pole plain, the Hufeng clan ranks fourth, right below our Heavenly Crane clan. However, I've heard from the great elders that while the Hufeng clan ranks below us, their strength is basically the same as ours, with no great difference. Our Heavenly Crane clan only outranks them because we're stronger in terms of great elders, He Qianshan said in a daze. The deaths of the three ancestors of the Hufeng clan seemed to have an extremely great impact on her, such that her face paled slightly. Who is the Empyrean Demon Lord? He's actually killed the three ancestors of the Hufeng clan. That's 3 grand primes. How did they just die like that? That's a difference in intermediate strength. In other words, the peak strength of the Hufeng clan and the Heavenly Crane clan are similar. Jian Chen was not overly shocked by the deaths of the 3 ancestors of the Hufeng clan. Instead, the strength of the Heavenly Crane clan weighed in his mind. Mo Tianyun could easily destroy the Hufeng clan that ranked 4th. In other words, it probably would not be too difficult for him to destroy the Heavenly Crane clan either. I wonder just what heavenly layer Senior Mo Tianyun has reached as a Grand Prime, Jian Chen thought. He pondered that for a moment before asking He Qianshan, Miss Qian, may I ask why you've told me this news? He Qianshan sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed down her turbulent emotions. Very soon, she suppressed all of her chaotic thoughts and calmed down once more. An icy presence radiated from her body naturally. Weren't you interested in the news of the ice pole plain? In order to satisfy your curiosity, I specially asked a great elder in my clan about this. Technically speaking, this information is still something beyond my reach. It's all because I'm in the Dark Star world that the great elders have done all that they can to fulfill my needs. That's the only reason why I received this information, He Qianshan said. You're mistaken, Miss Qian. I was only a little curious about the ice pole plain because of the Heavenly Crane clan. How can you say that I'm interested? Jian Chen laughed. He Qianshan's eyes flashed. She stared straight at Jian Chen as she said seriously, Yang Yutian, I might not be a particularly clever person, but don't treat me like a complete fool. In the 100 Saint City, there are many organizations much more powerful than our Heavenly Crane clan. With your talent and battle prowess, you could easily join an organization more powerful than ours, and you'll be favored no matter which organization you join. Yet, you just had to choose our Heavenly Crane clan. And, a few days ago, you asked me about the ice pole plain when you just returned to the Heavenly Crane clan. You said you were just curious and wanted to know a little more about the ice pole plain, but you were completely unaware that your expressions had already sold you out. Back then, your expression was definitely not simple curiosity. Instead, you responded like you cared very, very much. There's one last point. During the banquet earlier today, so many peak organizations wanted to recruit you, even offering you lavish conditions. Any single one of them is tempting enough that a god king born as an independent cultivator would never decline, yet you were completely unfazed. As a matter of fact, your gaze remained as clear as ever. What does that mean? It means that the offers from the clans could not even pique your interest. Am I right? Reaching there, He Qianshan paused. She stared at Jian Chen deeply before continuing, Yang Yutian, it definitely wasn't a coincidence when you chose to join our Heavenly Crane clan back then. Instead, you did it on purpose. I'm very curious about the reason why you chose our Heavenly Crane clan. Miss Qian, you're overthinking. I had no reason in choosing your Heavenly Crane clan. If you insist that I did, then that's to find something to rely on in the Dark Star world. After all, I'm just a stranger in a strange place among the Dark Star race. If I continue traveling alone, I might not even be able to take another step further. As for those offers from the clans, I'll be honest with you. Their offers did not interest me. I might be an independent cultivator, but I'm still an independent cultivator who had a fortuitous encounter and obtained the legacy of a primordial realm expert. I obviously possess some resources for myself. And finally, the Ice Pole Plain. I plan on visiting the Ice Pole Plain one day in the future, which is why I've been paying relatively more attention to news regarding it. I want to understand the plain and plan for the future. Jian Chen fended her off with composure. He Qianshan did not continue. She simply stared straight at Jian Chen with her shining eyes, as if she wanted to see through his thoughts. She clearly still had her doubts over Jian Chen's explanation. Jian Chen stared at He Qianshan too. His face was filled with helplessness and innocence, as well as a slightly bitter smile. Though, speaking of which, He Qianshan's eyes really were beautiful. Her pupils were extremely bright, and her large eyes were like black gemstones, shining with light that seemed to penetrate the hearts of people. Combined with her alluring, bleak appearance, it possessed a deadly charm to men. At this moment, an old man who seemed to be a caretaker walked in from outside. He reported, "Miss, I've just received news. They're inviting all the organizations to venture to the Pantheon Divine Hall." Understood. You can go. He Qianshan withdrew her gaze. She no longer looked at Jian Chen, gazing in the direction of the Pantheon Divine Hall at the center of the 100 Saint City instead. I don't care what you say. As long as you're in the Dark Star world, you're still a member of our Heavenly Crane clan. You're forbidden from doing anything that might harm our Heavenly Crane clan. Of course. Let's go. Let's go to the Pantheon Divine Hall. They've summoned everyone there probably because an organization has already come up with an idea to fulfill the Fifth Divine Hall's request. It's a pity that our Heavenly Crane clan is powerless against the Fifth Divine Hall's request. There might not be a lot of time left before our Heavenly Crane clan will be forced to withdraw from the Dark Star world. Filled with pity and regret, He Qianshan made her way out of the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall with Jian Chen and directly headed to the Pantheon Divine Hall. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2789, Ambition in the Pantheon Divine Hall. Over 100 seats surrounded a large table. When Jian Chen arrived with He Qianshan, they discovered most of the seats were already filled. Jian Chen was familiar with everyone who had the right to sit down. Although he could not exactly name all of them, he had seen them in the Two World Mountains. This was because all of these people were representatives of organizations. They were not all god kings. They were a few over-gods among them. The people he had clashed with in the two world mountains, Chu Jie, Kong Feiying, Zhou Wenbin, Gong Rui's, and Zhou Ji, happened to be among them too. When they saw Jian Chen arrive, Jin Hong, Ping Yisheng, and the prodigies who had a high recognition of him all stood up and clasped their hands at him, giving him a simple greeting. As for Chu Jie, Kong Feiying, Zhou Wenbin, Gong Rui's, and Zhou Ji, their faces all sank, and their eyes shone with veiled killing intent. Li Qingshan glanced at the five of them deeply before shifting his gaze away, standing behind He Qianqian like nothing had happened at all. Jian Chen could obviously sense their killing intent. They hid their killing intent very well, enough to fool everyone present except for Jian Chen. They were just 5 god kings. He had never even taken them seriously. After waiting for a while, everyone finally arrived in the Pantheon Divine Hall. At this moment, a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s broke the silence. I've assembled you all here today to discuss the matters regarding the conditions put forth by the 5th Divine Hall. Right now, the 7th Divine Hall resents our 100 Saint City deeply. If we want to remain here, we'll need the 5th Divine Hall's protection, so we have to fulfill the 5th Divine Hall's requests no matter what. When he reached there, the middle-aged man paused for a moment before continuing, I do believe you've all received the response from your various clans. May I ask which clans or organizations are able to complete the mission from the 5th Divine Hall? Yang Yutian, this person is a member of the Heavenly Lightning clan. Lei is his surname, and his name is a single word, Yun. He's called Lei Yun. As the middle-aged man spoke, He Qianqian introduced him to Jian Chen secretly. After Lei Yun finished speaking, Hao Chen of the Hao family said, I can see that you're teeming with confidence, fellow Lei Yun. It is like you have a plan already. Your Heavenly Lightning clan must have found a method to deal with it already. Lei Yun smiled with that. I really can't hide it from brother Hao Chen. It's just like what you said. Through the efforts of the seniors of our Heavenly Lightning clan, we've already found a method to fulfill the 5th Divine Hall's request. As he said that, Lei Yun scanned the crowd. He became rather arrogant and said, May I ask if there's anyone else present who can fulfill the 5th Divine Hall's request? I've received news from our Jade Pill clan that our ancestors have already emerged from seclusion. They're personally creating a pill formula. With their mastery over the way of alchemy, it shouldn't be difficult for them to come up with a pill that hasn't reached God tier but exceeds God tier pills. I do believe the pill should be refined before long, and then it will be delivered to the Dark Star world, said the prodigy of the Jade Pill sect. His eyes met Lei Yun's before both of them smiled mysteriously. Afterwards, no one else in the Pantheon Divine Hall said anything. Many were dejected. Apart from the Heavenly Lightning clan and the Jade Pill sect, there were actually no one else among the several dozen peak organizations that could fulfill the 5th Divine Hall's request. Seeing that, Lei Yun's smile grew even heavier, as if victory was within his grasp. He continued, We can't let this happen, can we? After all, the Vice Hall Master of the 5th Divine Hall said the 5th Divine Hall will protect whichever organization that is able to provide it with what it needs. Now that only our Heavenly Lightning clan and the Jade Pill sect can fulfill the 5th Divine Hall's request, wouldn't that mean only the two of us can remain in the 100 Saint City safely? Won't the other organizations lose their footing in the 100 Saint City? But we can't let that happen. When we built the 100 Saint City, all of our clans and organizations had put in a lot of effort. If you just leave, our Heavenly Lightning clan and the Jade Pill sect will be left alone in the huge 100 Saint City. When they heard that, the faces of many of the prodigies present became extremely twisted. There were also other people whose eyes shone, looking at Lei Yun and the prodigy from the Jade Pill sect like they were in thought. I do have a suggestion, but I don't know whether it'll work or not. The prodigy from the Jade Pill sect stood up. His eyes twinkled with hidden excitement as he said, If, and I say if, there aren't any other clans or sects left in the 100 Saint City, just our Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan, wouldn't that mean the fifth divine hall would be able to protect the entire city? When he heard that, Hao Ran snickered. He stared at the prodigy from the Jade Pill sect rather coldly and said, "So what your Jade Pill sect is trying to say is for us clans and sects that can't fulfill the fifth divine hall's request to join your Jade Pill sect or the Heavenly Lightning clan?" The prodigy from the Jade Pill sect smiled. "That's just a thought I came up with. Within the Dark Star world, all of our organizations in the 100 Saints City can join with the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan and follow us, but once you leave the Dark Star world, you're not bound by anything. We'll still be able to go our own ways." Ha ha ha, that suggestion isn't necessarily impossible. Of course, it's just a temporary measure, just something on the surface. This is all just so everyone can maintain their footing in the Dark Star world, for the sake of your organization's interests. It'll have nothing to do with your rankings in the Saints world. Lei Yun chuckled. "You actually want so many organizations to join your Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan such that we'll all have to follow you? Are you out of your mind? How can you think of something like that? Aren't you afraid of biting off more than you can chew and choking yourself to death?" Man Yunjun of the Man family sneered. "Jade Pill sect, Heavenly Lightning clan, how bold of you. Aren't you afraid of offending our 100 Battle clan such that you'll suffer in the future?" Baijan Xiong of the 100 Battle clan sneered as well. His gaze was filled with disdain. "Please watch yourselves, the two of you. If you anger the ancestor of our Hao family, just your Jade Pill sect and Heavenly Lightning clan probably won't be enough to endure our Hao family's wrath." Hao Chen's face sank too, and he wore a cold smile. In short, the suggestion from the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan basically angered all the organizations present. Everyone responded with glares and sneers. Only very few clans showed interest, remaining quiet. "Please calm down, please calm down. This is just a suggestion, that's all. We had absolutely no intentions of insulting you. As for whether it'll work out or not, it'll still depend on what you think, is it not?" Lei Yun of the Heavenly Lightning clan smiled in a hurry in an apologetic manner. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2790, Ancestral Sacred Earth. No one in the Pantheon Divine Hall said anything after that. The atmosphere became rather serious. As the faces of the prodigies present became twisted, the eyes of others shone with hesitance. They could already tell that the Heavenly Lightning clan and the Jade Pill sect were planning to work together. The two organizations wanted to use this opportunity to rearrange the profits of the 100 Saint City so that they could maximize their own shares. However, everyone present struggled to accept the suggestion that the Heavenly Lightning clan and the Jade Pill sect had put forward, as many of them came from clans that were much more powerful than the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan. If the Archean clan behind the Heavenly Lightning clan was ignored, there were even a few peak organizations in the Pantheon Divine Hall on completely different levels to the Jade Pill sect and Heavenly Lightning clan. Their clans were so powerful in the Saints world, yet they had to yield to the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan, two organizations that were nowhere close to their own clans, in the Dark Star world. None of the prodigies in the Divine Hall could accept this. Let alone the organizations stronger than the Heavenly Lightning clan and the Jade Pill sect, even a few organizations weaker than them struggled to accept this. After all, as organizations that stood at the peak of the Saints world, they were all existences that dominated an entire region, the absolute lords within their territories. They were obviously prideful. They would never be willing to depend on others. However, their interests in the Dark Star world were just too great. If they lost their foundation among the Dark Star race, they could still purchase the items of the Dark Star world from other organizations, but they would be at their whim as a result. Moreover, the items they would receive would be the leftovers after everyone else had picked out what they wanted. Obtaining some of the extremely rare materials would become much more difficult. Directly exchanging for them in the Dark Star world would be far easier. As a result, if they ignored the pride and dignity of their organizations, the suggestion from the Heavenly Lightning Clan and the Jade Pill sect might have been acceptable. Even He Qianqian's gaze began to waver, clearly interested. However, her gaze was primarily composed of conflicted emotions. Standing behind He Qianqian, Jian Chen could clearly sense her reaction. He asked secretly, "Miss Qian, you represent the Heavenly Crane Clan. Is your Heavenly Crane Clan willing to forsake your pride and dignity as a peak clan just for these resources from the Dark Star world? And, once you agree to the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning Clan suggestion, they'll be the ones in charge of the 100 Saint City." Even if your Heavenly Crane Clan can maintain a foothold in the Dark Star world, the resources you receive will probably come from a selection after the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning Clan have taken what they wanted. Yang Yutian, you don't understand. You have absolutely no idea just how important some of the rare heavenly resources in the Dark Star world are to our Heavenly Crane Clan. If we lose everything here, then not only will the nurturing of our juniors slow down, but even the battle prowess of our upper echelon will be affected, He Qianqian replied extremely sternly. She hesitated before continuing, in our Heavenly Crane Clan, there's a god-tier pill called the Ancestral Blood Pill. The pill can stimulate our bloodlines and strengthen them, or even achieve atavism and make our battle prowess multiply. The Ancestral Blood Pill is extremely important to our Heavenly Crane Clan, and one of the important materials to refining it can only be found in the Dark Star world. Without that, the effects of Ancestral Blood Pills refined will be greatly reduced. What material do you need to refine Ancestral Blood Pills? If I come across it in the future, I can collect some of it for you, Jian Chen asked. Soil of Divine Blood. He Qianqian replied. Jian Chen furrowed his brows and sank into his thoughts. During the few days he spent as the Fifth Hall Master, he had gained an understanding for some of the precious materials in the Dark Star world, but he had never heard of the Soil of Divine Blood. Soil of Divine Blood, Soil of Divine Blood. Since it's soil, it must have something to do with Earth. Don't tell me it's the ancestral sacred Earth within the Dark Star race. Jian Chen thought. He had read a few records before. In the distant past, the Grand Exalt of the Dark Star race and the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits had once shed blood during their battles. Their blood contaminated the soil, turning the regular Earth into something special. This soil was known as the ancestral sacred Earth within the Dark Star world. After a moment of silence, Jian Chen suddenly shifted his gaze towards the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning Clan. He asked, I have a question. How do you know that the items you've prepared will definitely satisfy the Fifth Divine Hall? If the Fifth Divine Hall is dissatisfied with your pill or heavenly resource, wouldn't this so-called suggestion of yours become a joke? And, it's not like you've brought it in yet. As long as you haven't brought it into the Dark Star race, we still don't know whether you can actually bring it in here or not. As soon as Jian Chen finished talking, Ping Yixing of the Empire Lotus Sword sect stood up and said, Brother Yang Yutian is completely right. You haven't even brought in the items yet, nor have you gained the Fifth Divine Hall's recognition, so it's a little early for you to be saying all this. Everyone, I'm going to save myself some time and take my leave first. I'll wait until the Fifth Divine Hall has accepted your items before I continue with the discussions. As he said that, Ping Yixing made his way out. Hold on, I'll send people to contact the Fifth Divine Hall right now, so please wait a moment, young Master Ping Yixing, said Lei Yun of the Heavenly Lightning Clan with complete confidence before immediately sending an envoy to the Fifth Divine Hall. Many of the people present immediately changed slightly in expression from that. A prodigy asked in surprise, why were you in such a hurry to contact the Fifth Divine Hall? Has your Heavenly Lightning Clan brought it in already? Lei Yun only smiled. From how confident he seemed, he clearly confirmed the answer to that question with his silence. Ping Yisheng, who had already arrived at the entrance of the divine hall, stopped. He turned around and gazed at Lei Yun deeply. Your heavenly lightning clan sure moves quickly. I never thought you could complete something that even we could not achieve and fulfill such a harsh request so quickly. The organization behind your heavenly lightning clan must have played a part. Since your heavenly lightning clan has already brought it in, I'll wait here for a moment then for the Vice Hall Master of the Fifth Divine Hall's arrival. I want to see whether the item your heavenly lightning clan has brought in actually satisfies the Fifth Divine Hall's request or not. Jin Hong said leisurely in his seat, completely unworried. He acted as if he never cared about the business in the 100 Saint City in the first place. It was like he was just watching a show. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2791, The Glazed Fruit of Scarlet Blood. This Vice Hall Master is here. Ha ha ha, I only came to get an understanding of what was going on, to see whether your organizations outside could actually fulfill our Fifth Divine Hall's request or not, but I never thought you would have already brought it in. The 100 Saint City really hasn't disappointed us. Just as the envoy from the Heavenly Lightning Clan was about to venture to the capital city of the Dark Star race to invite over the upper echelon of the Fifth Divine Hall, clear laughter suddenly rang out from outside the Pantheon Divine Hall. It possessed immense power and great dignity, accompanied by the pressure that belonged to the primordial realm. Jian Chen recognized the voice instantly to be the weakest out of the three Vice Hall Masters of the Fifth Divine Hall, Bing Yuan. It was exactly because he was the weakest in the Fifth Divine Hall that he ran errands for various matters. He was basically tasked with all the miscellaneous matters in the Fifth Divine Hall that required someone important to handle. The eyes of the prodigies from the Heavenly Lightning Clan and the Jade Pill sect lit up. Lei Yun could not help but laugh aloud. So it's Sir Vice Hall Master. We've failed to welcome you from afar, so please forgive us. Before Lei Yun had even finished talking, an extra person appeared in the Pantheon Divine Hall silently. He was a Vice Hall Master of the Fifth Divine Hall, Bing Yuan. Apart from Jian Chen, no one present sensed Bing Yuan's arrival, much less when he entered the Pantheon Divine Hall. When everyone discovered Bing Yuan's existence, they found him standing there at perfect ease, as if he had stood there for a very long time already. Bing Yuan ignored all the prodigies present. The moment he appeared in the Divine Hall, his gaze had been fixed on Lei Yun. He did not even look at the other people. It was as if the cultivators within the 100 Saint City were absolutely nothing in his eyes. If it were not for completing the mission his Hall Master had given him, he would not even want any contact with these cultivators. What our Fifth Divine Hall requires are heavenly resources or pills that have reached God tier and can heal the soul. Has the item your Heavenly Lightning Clan brought in really fulfilled our request? Bing Yuan's gaze was locked on Lei Yun. He slowly released the pressure of the primordial realm, crushing down on Lei Yun like a mountain. Although it seemed like a reminder, it was actually a warning. It was for everyone to understand that it was fine if they could produce nothing, but if they were to produce something, it had to satisfy the Fifth Divine Hall. After all, the Fifth Divine Hall was not an existence that could be toyed with. All Lei Yun felt was a suffocating feeling. He was unable to breathe normally. His face immediately paled slightly. He was just an early god king, and he had broken through recently. Now that he had to endure the pressure of a primordial realm expert, he felt much more strained than anyone else. Don't worry, Vice Hall Master. The item from our Heavenly Lightning Clan definitely won't disappoint you. Lei Yun used everything within him to speak with great difficulty. Oh. Then I'll have to wait and see. I hope you don't disappoint me. Bing Yuan slowly withdrew his pressure as his eyes shone with a sliver of eagerness. None of the prodigies in the Pantheon Divine Hall said anything. All of their gazes gathered on Lei Yun, flickering with various thoughts. For a moment, Lei Yun had become the point of focus. Under everyone's gazes, Lei Yun could not help but become slightly complacent. Afterwards, he patiently pulled out a jade box around a meter long from his space ring. The moment the jade box appeared, the senses of over 100 souls wrapped around it. As the jade box was not covered in any high-level formation that could block out the senses of the soul, they easily penetrated the box. However, when the owners of these senses detected what was in there, they were all slightly taken aback before becoming perplexed and confused. Bing Yuan had sent in the senses of his soul too. He had also sensed the item in the jade box clearly, and he was also taken aback at first. However, his face then sank. Just when he was about to erupt with fury, Lei Yun's voice rang out, "Please hold on, Vice Hall Master. What you see right now is incomplete. Please wait a moment, Vice Hall Master, and prepare to witness an unbelievable miracle." With that, Bing Yuan's eyes shone. His eyes were filled with doubt as he stood to one side and remained silent. Everyone in the Pantheon Divine Hall, including Jian Chen, became slightly curious, as they already knew that the heavenly resource in Lei Yun's jade box had not reached God tier. Instead, it had only reached the 9th grade of the truth tier. If they were outside, then they could nurture it further and evolve it to God tier. However, that would require an extremely lengthy amount of time, calculated in tens of millennia or even longer. However, they were in the Dark Star world right now. Even if they ignored the limiting environment of the Dark Star world, which made it unsuitable for growing heavenly resources of the Saints world, could the 5th Divine Hall really wait that long for it to evolve? Don't tell me the Heavenly Lightning Clan has a way to make this 9th grade truth tier heavenly resource reach God tier in an extremely short amount of time. Jian Chen was filled with doubt too. As a primordial realm expert, he possessed vast knowledge, so he completely understood the difficulties of such a matter. In the Saints' world that was filled with experts, existences of great power and mastery could indeed complete some impossible feats if they were willing to pay the price, but this was the Dark Star world, a place affected by countless limitations. Matters that could be achieved in the Saints' world could not necessarily be achieved in the Dark Star world. At this moment, Lei Yun opened the jade box and took out a small tree that was less than a meter tall. There was only a single, cherry-sized, red fruit on the tiny tree. It shone resplendently, it was almost crystalline, like a gemstone. The glazed fruit of scarlet blood. This is indeed a heavenly resource that can heal the soul. Though, I'm just very curious about how you'll elevate this 9th grade truth tier glazed fruit of scarlet blood to God tier, Lei Yun, said Ping Yisheng of the Empire Lotus Sword sect. Looking at its maturity, you'll probably need several dozen millennia at the very least if you want this glazed fruit of scarlet blood to evolve into a God tier heavenly resource, said the leader of the Heaven sect. Lei Yun smiled mysteriously and did not answer them. Instead, he pulled out another wooden box from his space ring, placing it carefully on the table. He performed a great bow in pure respect and sincerity towards the wooden box before opening it, removing 3 white fist-sized pieces of jade from within. He placed the 3 pieces of jade around the glazed fruit of scarlet blood before taking out some blood-red soil from his space ring. He scattered the soil onto the 3 pieces of jade. Soil of divine blood. The moment the blood-red soil appeared, a series of cries immediately rang out in the Pantheon Divine Hall. All of them looked at the soil of divine blood greedily. The Heavenly Crane clan was not the only one that required the soil of divine blood. Many peak organizations in the Saints' world were in desperate need of it too, as all pills that were related to vitality and vital energies would undergo a qualitative transformation if the soil of divine blood were added to their refinement process. As a matter of fact, the soil of divine blood was a primary, crucial material to some legendary, God-tier pills of higher grades. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2792, Seeds of Time. However, although the soil of divine blood only appeared in the Dark Star world, it was clearly extremely scarce. Whenever it appeared, the peak organizations in the 100 Saint City would undergo a fierce bidding war, or they would reach an agreement with other organizations in the city to split the soil of divine blood. As a result, obtaining soil of divine blood became difficult. This was why a few prodigies almost began to drool the moment Lei Yun took out the soil of divine blood. However, most of them stared at the 3 pieces of jade. The jade seemed extremely ordinary no matter how they looked at it. There was nothing special about them at all. They did not even possess the slightest energy. However, Lei Yun had sprinkled something as precious as soil of divine blood over them, which made everyone curious. The Vice Hall Master of the 5th Divine Hall, Bing Yuan, stared at the 3 pieces of jade too. Doubt appeared on his face, as he actually failed to see what the 3 pieces of jade were hiding with his cultivation as an infinite prime. Within the huge Pantheon Divine Hall, only Jian Chen sensed something. Not only had his soul surpassed the first heavenly layer infinite prime that Bing Yuan was, it had mutated, having ceased to be ordinary a long time ago. As a result, he could sense that the 3 pieces of white jade seemed to be hiding something. He furrowed his brows and thought hard. Only after a careful analysis did he gain an inkling. There seems to be 3 invisible seeds that no regular person can sense hiding within the jade. These seeds have something to do with the laws of time. They seem to be the seeds of the laws of time. When he reached this conclusion, even Jian Chen gasped despite his knowledge. He had no idea how laws could be transformed into a seed, nor did he know whether these seeds were formed naturally or had been condensed by someone through great power. However, its existence was a miracle in and of itself. Most importantly, these seeds of the laws of time did not possess any inherent energy, and the laws of time contained within had reached early God King at most. As a result, they could not be regarded as items of the God tier, which was why they could be brought in from the outside world without breaching the limit of the passageway. At this moment, the 3 pieces of white jade began to change. The soil of divine blood Lei Yun had sprinkled on them suddenly shone with a blood-red glow. Immediately, extremely pure vital energy seeped out. It was turbulent and tremendous. The pure vital energy was enough to force back the prodigies in the surroundings. Jian Chen's expression changed slightly. Perhaps due to his special soul, he could sense much more from the vital energy. That was an emotion filled with regret, resentment, fury, and blazing hatred. This made the vital energy seem like it had come alive, giving off its own emotions. However, Jian Chen knew that the emotions within the vital energy had been left behind by its past owner. However, the owner of the vital energy was just too powerful and just too terrifying, possessing the power to turn even the foul into the wondrous. Even though he was already dead, the blood was contaminated by his will from when he was still alive. Even after all this time, the will still had not dispersed. At this moment, a portion of the vital energy within the soil of divine blood actually merged with the 3 pieces of jade, sucked away one by one in the very end. Perhaps it was better to say that the seeds within the jade were absorbing a mysterious power within the vital energy. This mysterious power seemed to be extremely beneficial to the seeds of time within the jade. After absorbing this power, the 3 seeds of time actually grew with startling speed. As they grew, the intense power of the laws of time began to pulse, unable to be concealed any longer. As for the vital energy that had seeped out from the soil of divine blood, they seemed to lose their backbone after the seeds of time had absorbed the mysterious power. They were unable to remain in their condensed state, so they vanished into thin air and merged with the world. Time passed silently. In 5 minutes, the vital energy from the soil of divine blood had completely dispersed. The soil of divine blood that the major organizations all coveted had been reduced to a clump of regular soil under everyone's gazes. As for the 3 seeds of time, they seemed to have received sufficient nourishment and completely began to grow. Slivers of the power of the laws of time they leaked out with accidentally seemed to influence the flow of time in the space around the jade, causing the area to become rather hazy. Bang! Suddenly, the 3 pieces of jade exploded with no prior signs at all. The 3 seeds of time hidden within the jade were no longer restricted anymore. All of the power of the laws of time erupted completely like horses freed from their reins, forming a temporal vortex a meter wide. The glazed fruit of scarlet blood, which had been placed to one side, was enveloped by the temporal vortex too. In the temporal vortex, time flowed at an extremely alarming rate. The glazed fruit of scarlet blood underwent changes at a speed visible to the naked eye. The fruit that was only the size of a cherry swelled up, becoming even redder and even more crystalline. The glazed fruit of scarlet blood was growing at an unbelievable rate. It was currently evolving towards the god tier. All the prodigies in the Pantheon Divine Hall were dumbfounded. Even Bing Yuan, a primordial realm expert, was dumbstruck by this sight. Although he was respected as a primordial realm expert, Bing Yuan's knowledge and insight probably could not even match the God Kings in the Pantheon Divine Hall. That was because the strongest expert Bing Yuan could come in contact with in the Dark Star world was the 9th heavenly layer Infinite Prime, the Dark Star Emperor. As for experts higher up, chaotic primes, they were just a legend within the Dark Star world. They could only learn a little bit about them from ancient records or the mouths of outsiders. As for the God Kings in the Pantheon Divine Hall, they had even seen Grand Primes, let alone Infinite Primes. Many of them could directly contact them too. As a result, the prodigies in the Pantheon Divine Hall obviously surpassed him in terms of knowledge and insight. However, even these prodigies who had witnessed plenty of miracles from great experts were stunned, let alone Bing Yuan. After all, he was basically no different from a country bumpkin, someone who had yet to see the world. Before long, the temporal vortex dispersed as the power of time ran out, and the glazed fruit of scarlet blood had experienced a mysterious amount of time in there. In short, when it reappeared before everyone, it already gave off a heavy fragrance. Just a single whiff of the fragrance could cleanse everyone's minds, as if their souls had been purified. In that moment, the glazed fruit of scarlet blood had truly evolved to the god tier. Looking at the glazed fruit of scarlet blood and sensing the pulse of energy it gave off that had truly reached god tier, the prodigy's eyes were close to falling out from how wide they had become. Their faces were filled with disbelief and inconceivability. I never thought god tier heavenly resources can be nurtured rapidly like this. This is truly a wonder, truly a wonder. Speeding up time will interfere with the laws, and heavenly resources don't just need time and energy to evolve to god tier. It isn't that simple. They have to undergo a baptism of the ways of the world too. As a result, nurturing god tier heavenly resources through speeding up time has already been disproven by many peak experts in the saints' world, as it's just impossible. I have to say, it's a miracle that this glazed fruit of scarlet blood could succeed with it. The reason why the glazed fruit of scarlet blood could succeed is definitely not just because of the laws of time. The soil of divine blood must be the actual component vital to it all. For a moment, discussions rose up everywhere in the Pantheon Divine Hall. Many people's eyes lit up. At that moment, they all thought the same thing. If the soil of divine blood really was capable of something like this, did it not mean they could nurture large quantities of god-tier heavenly resources as long as they possess sufficient soil of divine blood? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2793, New Hope. Perhaps because he could tell what everyone was thinking, Lei Yun could not help but sneer. He said in a rather mocking manner, "I'd advise you to give up on it, as today has probably been the first time this method has been used to nurture a god-tier heavenly resource. A method as inconceivable as this is completely irreplicable. And, even if supreme experts skilled with the laws of time manage to replicate it, the cost will completely outweigh the benefits, as the value of soil of divine blood is probably enough to rival dozens or even more heavenly resources like these. Moreover, the soil of divine blood is something precious that has absolutely no supply in the saints' world. Why don't you ask yourselves this? Just which organization would be willing to use soil of divine blood that's worth several dozen god-tier heavenly resources to nurture a single god-tier heavenly resource when the losses clearly outweigh the gains?" Hearing Lei Yun's explanation, most of the light in the eyes of the prodigies there immediately subsided. They understood the value and worth of soil of divine blood extremely well. This was an important material for refining high-level god-tier pills. If soil of divine blood was included for some high-level pills, not only would their quality increase, but they would even become several times more potent. Its value had completely exceeded several dozen god-tier heavenly resources. Using something so precious to nurture a single god-tier heavenly resource was truly a bad deal. They would only use something as precious as soil of divine blood on a heavenly resource that was only at the truth tier regardless of the costs with the predicament they currently faced in the Dark Star world. Although this is a completely unworthwhile method of nurturing heavenly resources, it's the only way to fulfill the fifth divine hall's request in the Dark Star world. Many people thought. They immediately began to record the entire metamorphosis process of the glazed fruit of scarlet blood evolving to god tier, planning to contact their clans outside and have them come up with ideas. Lei Yun could obviously tell what they were thinking. However, he was unfazed. He did not worry at all that his method of nurturing the glazed fruit of scarlet blood would be replicated. If it were the Saints' world, a few peak organizations could achieve this easily. However, there were many limitations in the Dark Star world. Only their Heavenly Lightning clan could achieve something like this. Or more accurately, it was the organization behind their Heavenly Lightning clan. With a wave of his hand, the glazed fruit of scarlet blood that had just evolved flew into Lei Yun's hand. He held it in a single hand carelessly as undisguised pride and arrogance filled his face. Afterwards, he smiled at Bing Yuan. "Esteemed Vice Hall Master, may I ask if this god-tier glazed fruit of scarlet blood satisfies the fifth divine hall?" Bing Yuan took in a deep breath. Having personally witnessed the evolution of the glazed fruit of scarlet blood, he felt like he had witnessed a miracle. However, he also understood that such an unbelievable method would only appear in the Saints' world that was filled with experts. As for his Dark Star race, he did not even know if there was a chance for them to break out of the cage in his lifetime. Correct. It has indeed reached God tier, and it's a heavenly resource that can heal the soul. However, as for whether we're actually satisfied or not, we'll still require our Hall Master to personally appraise it, Bing Yuan said. If that's the case, then Lei Yun will hand this glazed fruit of scarlet blood to Vice Hall Master Bing Yuan. I hope the Vice Hall Master can pass this item on to your esteemed Hall Master for appraisal. Lei Yun was riding on the crest of success. As he passed the glazed fruit of scarlet blood to Bing Yuan, he continued, "Only our Heavenly Lightning clan can nurture a god-tier heavenly resource like this throughout the entire Saints' world. In order to provide a god-tier heavenly resource to the fifth divine hall, our clan has gone to extremely great lengths, as the value of those 3 pieces of jade that contain the laws of time are completely beyond imagination. I've taken note of its value. You don't have to worry. Before our Hall Master appraises the glazed fruit of scarlet blood, our fifth divine hall will continue to protect you until our Hall Master orders us to stop," Bing Yuan said sternly. The Hall Master of the fifth divine hall had yet to return, so even when he accepted the god-tier heavenly resource from the Heavenly Lightning clan, he was afraid to make the decision himself. After all, he had no idea whether the God-tier heavenly resource was effective on their Hall Master's soul at all. Our Jade Pill sect will definitely refine a pill that satisfies the fifth divine Hall. However, the pill is still being refined right now, and it'll probably only be delivered later. The moment it arrives, our Jade Pill sect will immediately contact the Vice Hall Master. At this moment, the person from the Jade Pill sect spoke too, also brimming with confidence. He already knew that the ancestors of the Jade Pill sect were personally refining the pill. Since even their ancestors had emerged, failure would be completely impossible. Good, good, good. Bing Yuan was delighted and nodded constantly. He had already been surprised over how he obtained a God-tier glazed fruit of scarlet blood. If he could obtain a God-tier pill too, it would definitely be extremely beneficial to the recovery of his Hall Master's soul. Vice Hall Master, you've seen it already. Only the Heavenly Lightning Clan and the Jade Pill sect can produce God-tier heavenly resources and God-tier pills. As for us who can't produce what you require, we will definitely be chased out of the Dark Star world by the 7th Divine Hall once we lose your protection. I hope the Vice Hall Master can speak for us before the Hall Master and give us an opportunity to remain in the Dark Star world. We're willing to make it up to the 5th Divine Hall through other means. At this moment, He Qianshan suddenly stood up. With a pleading gaze, she lowered her head slightly and clasped her fist at Bing Yuan, asking him submissively. At that moment, she seemed to have forgotten she represented the Heavenly Crane clan. She was willing to lower her noble head before an infinite prime that only seemed like a slightly larger ant in the eyes of the Heavenly Crane clan, just in hopes of being able to remain here. This was because the resources from the Dark Star world had just too great of an impact on the Heavenly Crane clan. Once they lost their foundation here, the entire clan's strength would plummet. Standing behind her, Jian Chen's emotions immediately became rather mixed when he saw how close He Qianshan was to bowing and scraping. In the end, all he could do was sigh inside. He said nothing at all. This was because he had been in contact with Bing Yuan. Even with his flawless disguise, he did not want to attract too much of Bing Yuan's attention. As a result, Jian Chen had only become even more discreet after Bing Yuan entered the Pantheon Divine Hall. Miss Chen is correct. We may not be able to produce God-tier heavenly resources and pills, but we can do a few things for the 5th Divine Hall in other aspects, such as hunting down some life-devouring beasts. I'm aware that there are many Saints World organizations that work for the 5th Divine Hall in the Dark Star world, but in terms of strength, these organizations don't even have the right to lick our boots. I've heard that the Dark Star race is purchasing the remains of life-devouring beasts en masse lately, even offering a price several times greater than normal and placing great rewards for God King life-devouring beasts. If you were to ask who possesses the greatest ability to kill God King life-devouring beasts within the Dark Star world race right now, it would definitely be our 100 Saint City if we ignore that Gu Qi who made a mess in Dark Knight City before going missing. After what He Qianshan said, a few prodigies immediately spoke up too. They thought of the same thing as He Qianshan. They were reluctant to yield to the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan, yet they refused to give up on the abundant resources in the Dark Star world. As a result, all they could do was take a step back and find another method, just so they could obtain the 5th Divine Hall's protection. Listening to these people, Bing Yuan began to hesitate. The day of the great ceremony was growing closer and closer. The ceremony required large numbers of life-devouring beasts. High-level life-devouring beasts like those at God King were crucial, but their race only received a pitiful number of their corpses, just a handful. Instead, they had purchased a huge pile of low-level life-devouring beast corpses. The situation right now really was like what these people described it to be. The outsiders who worked for the various divine halls were much weaker than the 100 Saint City. They were more than enough for hunting down over-God life-devouring beasts, but obtaining God King life-devouring beasts was extremely difficult. If they could get the people of the 100 Saint City to hunt down God King life-devouring beasts, it would be quite a good idea. Thinking up to there, Bing Yuan seemed to make up his mind. Determination appeared in his eyes as he said, "Since you're pleading with me, then our divine hall will give you a chance. If you can provide large quantities of God King life-devouring beast corpses to our 5th divine hall, I can ask our hall master to show some mercy to you. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2794, Hunting Operation. With that, all the organizations that were unable to produce God-tier pills or heavenly resources beamed with joy. In that moment, they felt like the moment before they drowned, they had suddenly grabbed a straw, giving them the hope of surviving. This obviously touched their hearts. Hunting God King life-devouring beasts was a test of life and death riddled with difficulties from the perspective of other outsiders. Just the slightest carelessness could annihilate their entire group. However, this was not completely impossible to the organizations in the 100 Saint City. This was because they all had experience moving around in the 2 world mountains, making frequent contact with life-devouring beasts. They had truly accumulated quite a lot of valuable experience. Combined with the numerous sacrificial god kings under their command, hunting life-devouring beasts was not impossible as long as they made sufficient arrangements. It would even be easier than when they moved through the 2 world mountains. That was because they were in a completely reactive position as they moved through the 2 world mountains. Every single battle had occurred extremely hastily, with no path for retreat either. But now, they would be proactive with the Dark Star world behind them. They could be on the offense and on the defense. Moreover, they had time to set up a series of arrangements, so hunting would obviously become much easier. Compared to their exhilaration, the people from the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan's faces became as warped as possible. They had already reached an agreement in the past, planning to use this opportunity to rearrange the standings of the organizations in the 100 Saint City so that they could maximize their benefits. In the end, just a single sentence from Bing Yuan had shattered their wonderful dream. As the 2 organizations were filled with regret, they also began to resent Bing Yuan slightly. God damn it, why would it be like this? Our Heavenly Lightning clan has gone to such great lengths to nurture a glazed fruit of scarlet blood to satisfy the 5th divine hall, yet these people actually just need to do something as simple as kill a few God King life-devouring beasts, and they'll get a chance to be protected by the 5th divine hall. This is unfair. This is unfair. Lei Yun fumed inside, but he was just unable to show it. This was the territory of the Dark Star race after all. No matter how powerful the Heavenly Lightning clan was, they were unable to lecture people in the Dark Star world. Vice Hall Master, God King life-devouring beasts may be worth a lot, but you still can't compare it to the God-tier pill and heavenly resource provided by our Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan. Their values are on completely different levels. If other organizations just need to provide some corpses of God King life-devouring beasts, and they'll be able to enjoy the same treatment as our Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan, that'll be far too unfair. The prodigy from the Jade Pill sect stood up and grumbled. In order to produce the pill that the 5th divine hall required, the ancestors of their Jade Pill sect had even emerged from secluded cultivation, personally creating the pill formula. They were going to much greater lengths than just killing a few God King life-devouring beasts. You don't have to worry at all. Your Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning clan have provided our Hall Master with what he needs, so the majority of the merit obviously goes to you. If our Hall Master is satisfied with your pill and heavenly resource, our 5th divine hall will reward you depending on your merit. By then, you'll have plenty of benefits. As for them, Bing Yuan looked around and said indifferently, I only said I'd only ask the Hall Master to show some mercy to them if they provide us with God King life-devouring beasts. I can't guarantee whether the Hall Master actually recognizes them or not in the end. The people of the Heavenly Lightning Clan and the Jade Pill sect eased up slightly with that, while the other organizations in the Pantheon Divine Hall became rather uneasy after their excitement. They were afraid of spending all their efforts hunting down God King life-devouring beasts, only for it to go to waste. However, they also understood that if they hunted down life-devouring beasts and handed them over to the Fifth Divine Hall like what Bing Yuan had said, there was a chance that they could obtain the Fifth Divine Hall's protection at the very least. Otherwise, they would not have any chance at all, and the end result would be either yielding to the Jade Pill sect and the Heavenly Lightning Clan or abandoning their business here. Vice Hall Master Bing Yuan did not remain in the 100 Saints City for very long. He returned to the Fifth Divine Hall very quickly with the glazed fruit of scarlet blood that had evolved to God tier. With his departure, the many organizations gathered in the Pantheon Divine Hall obviously dispersed, returning to their own territories and immediately doing two things. The first thing was to record down the glazed fruit of scarlet blood's process of evolving to God tier in detail before immediately sending people to deliver the information back to their clans in the Saints' world. The second thing was to gather numerous sacrificial God Kings in their divine halls. 300 or 400 sacrificial God Kings had already been gathered in the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall. They stood in a neat rectangle in front of He Qianqian, showing great respect. The Heavenly Crane clan had brought in almost 1,000 sacrificial God Kings. A few fell in battle as they crossed through the two world mountains, with around 700 or 800 people remaining. Currently, the sacrificial God Kings gathered in the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall already amounted to half of the remaining number. He Qianqian sat on the throne sternly, radiating with coldness, which made the entire hall seem like a cavern of ice. It was extremely cold. She glanced past the sacrificial God Kings below sharply before landing on the white-clothed Jian Chen, who stood indifferently. She spoke with a voice that she believed to be very authoritative, Yang Yutian, you're a member of our Heavenly Crane clan when you're in the Dark Star world, so any business of our Heavenly Crane clan is also your business. Protecting the interests of the Heavenly Crane clan is also part of your responsibility. The Heavenly Crane clan needs you now, so will you fight for the Heavenly Crane clan? Jian Chen smiled and clasped his fist. That would obviously be an unavoidable duty of mine. The clan requires you to venture to the two world mountains and hunt down God King life-devouring beasts. I'll dispatch half of the sacrificial God Kings from the clan to you. They will listen to your command. I hope you don't disappoint us, said He Qianqian. It's just that Miss Qian, I've only emerged from the two world mountains recently. Why do you have to send me back in so hurriedly and so soon? Jian Chen smiled bitterly. He Qianqian was helpless. We've already reached a critical moment that determines whether our Heavenly Crane clan can remain in the Dark Star world or not, and in the clan, you happen to be the strongest, so I have no other choice. But you don't have to worry. When I leave here, I will definitely personally report the sacrifices you have made for your clan to the clan so that you earn a greater reward. Fine then. I'll hunt down these God King life-devouring beasts, but I won't be needing these sacrificial God Kings. The strength they can offer is unnecessary to me, and I've grasped the laws of space, so it's actually much easier for me to move around alone. It'll actually be inconvenient if I have them around, said Jian Chen. He Qianqian nodded. If that's the case, I won't allocate these people to you. However, you must be careful when you move around alone. The threats you face definitely aren't as simple as just the life-devouring beasts of the two world mountains. You have to be careful about the Dark Star race too. If the Dark Star race learns of your strength and talent, they definitely won't spare you according to how they've behaved in the past. And, you need to be a little more cautious about Chu Jie, O Ji, Zhao Wenbin, Kong Feiying, and Gong Rui's. Due to the situation in the Dark Star world, none of the people in charge of the organizations can leave the city without proper reason, so we can't partake in the hunting operation. However, I'm afraid that they'll send sacrificial god kings to deal with you, so you must remain vigilant, He Qianshan reminded him sincerely, revealing her concern for him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2795, Space and Time. Jian Chen smiled mysteriously and said without minding at all, if I were that easy to kill, I would have died in the depths of the two world mountains a long time ago. Why would I still be alive right now? You don't have to worry, Miss Chen. I don't even have to take Chu Tian and the others seriously. He Qianshan shot an exasperated glance at Jian Chen. I know you're very strong. I'm just warning you, so you'll be prepared, just in case you get caught off guard. Afterwards, He Qianshan warned Jian Chen about a few things seriously and in great detail, regardless of whether Jian Chen knew about it already or not. In short, she explained everything she knew about the two world mountains and everything that required Jian Chen to be careful of patiently to him. She supplemented all aspects of Jian Chen's knowledge regarding the two world mountains. Jian Chen was a powerful primordial realm expert, enough to move around freely in the two world mountains, and he possessed an extremely deep understanding of the two world mountains already, but he still benefited greatly from what He Qianshan told him. He learned about many secrets he had yet to uncover. After all, the 100 Saints City had already operated in the Dark Star world for countless years. They had entered the two world mountains even more than the Dark Star race, so their understanding of the two world mountains even surpassed the Dark Star race in certain aspects. Jian Chen left the 100 Saints City alone. He did not disguise himself at all, just swaggering his way over to the two world mountains. As for the several hundred sacrificial god kings gathered in the heavenly crane divine hall, He Qianshan split them up into multiple groups and sent them into the depths of the two world mountains. She could not rely on Jian Chen alone to hunt down life-devouring beasts, as she knew that just a single corpse or two would never be enough. Only when they gathered a lot, so much that the fifth divine hall was unable to ignore them, could they earn the fifth divine hall's promise of protection. As a result, in order to hunt down as many God King life-devouring beasts as possible, she needed to send as large of a force as she could muster into the two world mountains. He Qianshan was not the only one who took action in the 100 Saints City. Many peak organizations sent out many sacrificial god kings too. Even Jin Hong was not an exception. Although Jin Hong had already received the ancestors' notice, giving him permission to abandon their operations in the Dark Star race at any time, that would be a decision he would make when there was no hope at all. Now that a ray of hope had appeared, he obviously had to grasp it. Jin Hong currently stood in the doorway of the divine hall that belonged to the Dire Wolf clan. His gaze was fixed on the city gates. He could not help but frown. He Qianshan has actually still chosen to send Yang Yuqian into the two world mountains. Doesn't Yang Yuqian know that those who resent him have been keeping an eye on him the entire time? He didn't even try to disguise himself when he left the city. Guards! Jin Hong suddenly called out. Young master! Two over-gods of the Wolf clan immediately appeared, but from their attires, they seemed more like caretakers than guards. Send people to keep an eye on the Chu family, Gong family, Zhao family, Sangqiong clan, and Yuqiong sect immediately. Contact me the moment they make any movements, Jin Hong said. Yes, young master. At the same time, many sacrificial god kings gathered in the divine halls that belonged to the Chu family, Gong family, Zhao family, Sangqiong clan, and the Yuqiong sect. Chu Jie, Gong Rui's, Zhao Wenbin, Kong Feiying, and Zhou Ji all sat high up, making a series of arrangements. A while later, the 5 of them put on their disguises, blending in as members of the sacrificial god kings. Not only had their appearances changed, but even their presences changed through the use of a few special items. Although their method of disguise seemed rather rough, such that they could easily give themselves away at a close range, it could fool the senses of souls to a certain degree. After disguising themselves as sacrificial god kings, the sacrificial god kings they replaced underwent the same procedure to replace them. Remember, before I return, you are forbidden from taking a single step out of the hall, nor can you activate the formation in the hall. Even if you speak, you have to copy my voice, understood? After exchanging identities, the 5 of them sternly instructed the sacrificial god kings replacing them. Yes, young master. The sacrificial god kings all answered. Afterwards, Chu Jie, Gong Rui's, Kong Feiying, Zhao Wenbin, and Zhou Ji all blended into the sacrificial god kings, setting off from their respective divine halls and flying towards the city gates. The moment the 5 of them set off, the senses of Jin Hong and He Qianqian's souls swept over, completely enveloping these sacrificial god kings. After circling around for a short while, they failed to discover anything wrong, so they both withdrew the senses of their souls. Although the leaders of the various organizations in the 100 Saints City had all reached an agreement to remain within the city due to the situation of the Dark Star World, to prevent the people of the 7th Divine Hall from scheming against them in the wilderness, He Qianqian and Jin Hong were clearly worried that they would still make a reckless move. As such, they constantly paid attention to the movements of the 5. The Chu family, Gong family, Zhao family, Sangqiong clan, and Yuqiong sect have all sent out part of their sacrificial god kings. It completely matches the strength required to hunt down life-devouring beasts. However, even if these sacrificial soldiers want to do something to Yang Yutian, they shouldn't be able to match his speed. Yang Yutian, all I can do right now is keep an eye on Chu Tian, Zhou Ji, Zhao Wenbin, Gong, Rui's and Kong Feiying for you. As long as the 5 of them aren't present, the sacrificial god kings won't be able to fall into formation, and without the primordial realm formation, they shouldn't be able to threaten you. He Qianqian stood on the top of the heavenly crane divine hall in white clothes and muttered to herself as she stared in the direction of the city gates. Young master, we've just received news that Chu Tian, Gong Rui's, and the others are all in their divine halls. On another side of the city, Jin Hong received the report of their investigations, and he immediately eased up a lot. After waving his hand and dismissing the servant, he crossed his legs and sat on the throne, sinking into his thoughts. He could not help but think of the sight when he could barely suppress the power of his bloodline whenever he approached Yang Yutian again, as well as the emotions of extreme craving it pulsed with. Just what does Yang Yutian possess? I may be mistaken, but the reason for the rousing of my bloodline is not because of some item, but because his bloodline is also unique, sharing the same origins as our dire wolf clan. Should I find an opportunity to ask him once he returns? Jin Hong thought to himself. He had ruminated over this for just too long, but he had his qualms. He was afraid of affecting his relationship with Yang Yutian, which was why he had never mentioned it. Outside the 100 Saints City, Jian Chen flew at an altitude of 1,000 meters as he made his way towards the 2 world mountains at a steady pace. However, he did not travel along a straight path. Instead, he detoured slightly to one side, avoiding the shortest path that constantly flowed with people. However, the corner of his mouth seemed to remain curled the entire time. Sometimes, a sneering light would flash through his eyes. At this moment, the space around Jian Chen suddenly blurred. At the same time, the flow of time in the blurry space underwent an upheaving change. The flow of time actually sped up by several dozen times in that instant. Moreover, Jian Chen could clearly sense that the space he resided in seemed to be forcefully changed into a miniature world that differed from the Dark Star world. Not only did the space become independent, but the space also possessed its own laws of time. Is this the laws of space and the laws of time? I never thought I'd run into a prodigy who's grasped both space and time in the Dark Star world. Even in the Saints' world, people like that are like mythical existences. Jian Chen stopped and hovered in the air with his arms crossed, making a small remark to himself at complete ease. At the same time, he closely sensed the changes in the space with a hint of interest. More accurately, he was sensing the laws of time that filled the surroundings and altered the flow of time. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2796, Falling into an Encirclement. There were many people who had comprehended the laws of space in the Saints' world and plenty who had comprehended the laws of time. However, basically all of these people only grasped one of the laws. There were extremely few cultivators in the Saints' world who had comprehended both the laws of time and the laws of space. Describing them as mythical existences was no exaggeration at all. This was because a slight connection existed between the laws of space and the laws of time to a certain degree. Once both laws were grasped, the difficulty of comprehension would multiply, sometimes by as much as several dozen-fold or hundred-fold. Yet now, Jian Chen had run into a cultivator who had grasped both the laws of time and the laws of space, and his cultivation had reached an impressive God-King realm. If this were a cultivator of the Dark Star race, then Jian Chen would not have been so surprised, as cultivators of the Dark Star race had plenty of time to slowly comprehend. However, what mattered was the person who had comprehended both the laws of space and the laws of time was an outsider. What did this mean? This meant he was less than 1,000 years old, or he never would have been able to set foot in the Dark Star world. In a single millennium, he had elevated his comprehension of both the laws of time and the laws of space to God-King. The difficulty of that was unparalleled to comprehending other laws. His talent could truly be regarded as unprecedented. He's already an early God-King, yet the space he's created is so tough that even mid-God-Kings will struggle to destroy it. A combination of the laws of space and laws of time really is powerful. Jian Chen sighed in admiration. According to his observations, the space was already enough to trap most late God-Kings. This was simply unimaginable. You possess impressive insight, sir. I never thought you'd already see through the toughness of my world of heaven and earth before I've even done anything. However, you've still underestimated my world of heaven and earth. More correctly, even late God-Kings will struggle to destroy my world of heaven and earth. As for mid-God-Kings, no one can get through it unless they're prodigies that possess the talent of supreme God-Kings and can challenge those at higher cultivation levels. A peaceful voice rang out. A young man in white robes appeared out of nowhere 100 meters in front of Jian Chen. He did not seem old, only around 18 or 19. He had fine facial features, and he seemed like he was still wet behind his ears at first glance. He gave off a peaceful presence, enough to bring peace to the surroundings, which made his presence merge perfectly with the world around him. It was as if even his body was a part of the surroundings. He had truly attained, becoming one with nature. The world of heaven and earth. You call this domain the world of heaven and earth? Jian Chen asked. However, he did understand that calling this domain composed of the laws of space and the laws of time a world made perfect sense, as the space had already become completely independent, just like a real miniature world. The flow of time here had completely separated from the Dark Star world. That's right. To me, time is heaven and space is earth. A combination of time and space creates a world, so this world of mine is called the world of heaven and earth, the young man said with composure. He stood with his arms crossed, also levitating at an altitude of 1,000 meters. He did not take any action. Did the Chu family, Gong family, Zhao family, Sangqiong clan, and Yuqiong sect send you to deal with me? Are you really that confident you can keep me trapped in your world of heaven and earth? Jian Chen stared at the young man, and his gaze gradually sharpened. The young man did not deny that. He nodded gently. Yang Yutian, I've already heard you possess extraordinary battle prowess, enough to rival the young master of the Dire Wolf clan who's obtained a grand exalt's legacy. While my world of heaven and earth won't be able to keep you trapped for long periods of time, keeping you trapped for a while won't be a problem. There normally aren't any good consequences awaiting those who oppose me. Have you ever considered the consequences of opposing me? Even in the saints' world, you're a supreme prodigy to be able to comprehend both the laws of time and the laws of space to God King at such a young age. If you just die, that's far too great of a pity. If you leave right now, I'll turn a blind eye to everything you've done, Jian Chen said coldly. Apologies. I'm just acting on someone's request. Since I've already agreed to it, I must uphold my word. When he reached there, the young man smiled mysteriously. He stared at Jian Chen like he was looking at a dead man and said, moreover, even if you can defeat me, you won't get the chance, as if nothing goes wrong today, you shouldn't be able to leave. World of heaven and earth, open. The young man suddenly spread his arms. All of his limbs sprawled out. The laws of time and the laws of space revolved around him, merging together and disturbing the space around him, such that the region that he resided in became a new miniature world. The miniature world suddenly expanded outwards with his cry, forcefully increasing its area by several fold in that instant. As the miniature world expanded and absorbed even more space, the people who were originally on the edge of the original miniature world were naturally enveloped too. These people were split into 5 groups, amounting to almost 4,000 people. Every single one of them radiated with the aura of God Kings. The 5 groups of people were the sacrificial God Kings of the Chu family, Gong family, Zhao family, Sangqiong clan, and Yuqiong sect, while the people leading them were Chu Tian, Zhao Wenbin, Gong Rui's, Kong Feiying, and Zhou Ji. As soon as they saw Jian Chen, their eyes became flooded with hatred. In particular, with Chu Tian, not only did his eyes explode with killing intent, but his hatred was so extreme that it twisted his face. It made him seem especially vicious. Ha 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 ha. Yang Yutian, we've finally gotten the chance to catch you. Weren't you pretty arrogant back then in the 2 world mountains? Why were you all scared now? Do you feel afraid inside? Chu Tian stood among the sacrificial God Kings and laughed in delight, as if he had finally obtained the opportunity to redeem himself for the humiliation in the past. Yang Yutian, never did you think you would face something like this, did you? Only a single fate awaits those who offend us, which is death. Yang Yutian, weren't you pretty impressive back then in the 2 world mountains? I'd like to see just how many attacks you can last before our formations. Today, you're done for, no one can save you. Gong Rui's, Kong Feiying, Zhou Ji, and Zhao Wenbin all sneered too. They all looked at Jian Chen with surging grievance, as well as extremely deep hatred. This hatred, this grievance, all originated from the humiliation they had originally suffered. They had been humiliated in the eye of the public. Back then in the 2 world mountains, the 5 of them had lost many sacrificial God Kings. Even they themselves had almost died at Yang Yutian's hands. Now, the 5 of them were teeming with confidence, as if victory was already within their grasp. They did not take Yang Yutian seriously at all, as they had already fallen into formation beforehand. Right now, their power and the power of the many sacrificial God Kings merged together through the formation. They were all God Kings, but they possessed the battle prowess of the primordial realm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.